Konoha, the strategic alliance of Uchiha Shisui. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Ku. It's Shisui-sama. Shisui-sama, good afternoon. That afternoon, Nanga Shrine, Shisui and Hui had just arrived at the foot of the mountain when several people noticed that they had gathered together. Good afternoon, everyone. Shisui smiled and responded to everyone. Why must this kind of clan come here? Don't they think it's conspicuous? Hui sighed as he looked at the clan members rushing around. Although he learned far less from Sima Yi than Shisui, there was one sentence that he remembered firmly: success is achieved through secrecy and failure is caused by leaks. That's true. Shisui nodded in agreement after hearing this. Although Nanga Shrine is relatively remote, it is really far from their current clan land. Those who can come to participate in the meeting are the elite of the clan who have opened the three Magatama. The strength of these people can be called elite ninjas in the entire ninja world. Now nearly 100 such strong men have gathered in the same place at the same time. As long as the Konoha high-level officials pay a little attention, they will know what they are going to do. After all, it is a tradition of the clan, and I heard that several elders of the clan attach great importance to this matter. It is unreasonable not to hold the clan meeting here. Hearing Shisui and the other two sighing, several people around began to explain. Tradition. Shisui could only reveal a helpless smile. The tradition of Uchiha made him feel more and more absurd. As they talked, several people climbed the stone steps and crossed the torii gate, and then went around to the courtyard at the back, where the secret clan meeting was held. At this moment, many people had come to the courtyard. When they heard the noise, they all turned around and saw that the person coming was Shisui. After standing up and waving, they all gestured. Seeing this, Hui's eyes lit up and he straightened his chest, feeling a little excited. Shisui stopped and looked at everyone, then bowed slightly and took the initiative to say, "Everyone, good afternoon." Everyone responded one after another, and some even sighed. It is worthy of being Lord Shisui. At this time, several elders came together. The huge movement aroused the curiosity of those who had just arrived. When they entered the courtyard, they saw Shisui being watched by everyone. The elder's eyes moved, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. I didn't expect that it would be possible to achieve this in such a short time. Seeing several elders rushing over, everyone gradually quieted down. Almost immediately after, Fugaku also rushed over from the other side of the courtyard. He came to the corridor and sat down after several elders and Shisui came up. On Fugaku's left sat the elder and others, and on his right sat the second elder and others. Although Shisui was not an elder, he was of high status and qualified to sit here. He was also the grandson of Uchiha Kagami, so it was natural for him to sit at the end of the right hand. At this point, the clan meeting began. This time it's different from the past. It has seriously affected the daily life of the clan members. If it weren't for Shisui's timely rescue of the clan members, I'm afraid someone would have died. We must not let it go and let them underestimate us. Uchiha. As always, the elders began to tell the tragedy of the clan members, then named Konoha, and then rose to the family honor. This incident was only done by Uten Koharu and Mitamanen. It has nothing to do with the third generation. We can't make a big deal out of it. It's better to discuss it with the third generation. There are also people in the second elder's line who understand the reason. They avoid the current situation of the clan members and want to calm everyone down. The two sides have been arguing back and forth, but now the current situation of the clan members is there. The radicals have a large audience. They only need to keep telling the facts to force the conservatives to retreat step by step. The conservatives had to bring out the words that the war is over, peace is the most important, and they should tolerate it for the sake of Konoha and the overall situation. Fugaku and Shisui remained silent and let the elders continue to argue. Soon the quarrel between the two sides became more and more intense, and the clan members below also joined in. As expected, this clan meeting lasted for 3 hours without any results. Until the evening, both sides gradually got angry. and the radicals had changed from asking for an explanation to a coup to regain the glory of Uchiha. The conservatives changed from tolerating it temporarily in peaceful negotiations to handing over Uten Koharu and Mitamina to let Konoha compromise. As the sun sets, Shisui finds the noisy crowd both ridiculous and pathetic, and even thinks that it would be better to go back to learn the sealing technique, since everyone has their own opinions. Why not vote? The great elder sighed and proposed again. He is old and gradually feels powerless after a few hours. In fact, throughout the meeting, more than once someone proposed to vote, but they were all rejected by the second elder and others. The second elder is not a fool. Of course, he knows that the other party has more people, but he does not approve of the other party's radical approach from the bottom of his heart. He just wants to delay it until he and Fugaku come up with a solution to the problem. By then, the tribe will naturally be stable. Then vote. Suddenly, a deep voice sounded, and in an instant, the whole audience was silent, and everyone looked towards the owner of the voice. That person is Uchiha Fugaku. The great elder was puzzled, the second elder was shocked, and Shisui also woke up from his confusion. Clan leader? The second elder shouted in disbelief, but Fugaku looked at everyone with a serious expression and repeated, "Let's vote." The first elder and the clan leader both agreed to vote, so the second elder was naturally powerless to refute. He looked at everyone blankly and even glanced at Shisui. Shisui was more confused than him. In this case, if he agreed to vote, wouldn't the result be obvious? As expected, the call for launching a coup was almost overwhelming. After getting this result, the second elder's hands were shaking slightly. The clan members in the courtyard also looked at each other, and for a while they were a little uncomfortable. They just wanted an explanation. How did it turn into launching a coup? Tyuo, Yashiro, Dohao, Yangs, whose eyes were full of shock and uneasiness. The first elder calmed down first, and his eyes fell on Fugaku. "What are you going to do?" Fugaku slowly stood up. His eyes swept over Tyuo, and he caught a glimpse of Shisui, and then he closed his eyes. At this moment he no longer hesitated, and when he opened his eyes again, his pupils had turned into 3 Magatama. The result is set. "I have decided to launch a coup and take back the glory of the Uchiha clan." He spoke in a high voice, as if he had made up his mind. Why did they choose him as the clan leader in the first place? The great elder sighed, with disappointment in his eyes. If Fugaku forced the clan members to deny this vote, he would look up to the other party. At least it shows that he has been doing this for the stability of the Uchiha clan. After Fugaku's voice fell, everyone reacted after a few breaths. Tyuo's face was very ugly. He looked at Fugaku and then at Shisui, feeling very uneasy. "Coup, take back the glory of the Uchiha clan. Let those old guys see how powerful the Uchiha clan is." Some people were excited, and their Sharingan opened involuntarily. They cheered and raised their fists. Until this moment, the clan elders were the quietest. No. Chapter 77 10 Days. The crisp and childish voice seemed a little out of place in this courtyard full of bloodlust and passion, but this familiar voice made everyone quiet down subconsciously. Fugaku's eyes moved slightly, and the great elder looked up, only to see that Shisui had stood up at some point. He looked serious, and after everyone quieted down, he slowly came down and half knelt in front of Fugaku. "No, Shisui, do you know what you are saying?" The whole place was silent. Only Fugaku had a serious expression, and the 3 Magatama stared coldly at Shisui below, and the low questioning voice echoed in the courtyard. Shisui didn't know why Fugaku was so decisive all of a sudden. According to Sima Yi's description, this situation should have happened at least 3 days later. But he did not panic because of the unexpected thing. When several elders remained silent, he chose to stand decisively on the opposite side of the tribe. "Yes, clan leader, I know very well what I am doing, but we absolutely cannot launch a coup now. This is a betrayal to Konoha and even more so to our clan members." Shisui's voice was sonorous and powerful. Everyone was still in a state of panic and didn't care about it. Some even wondered why Shisui, who was devoted to his clan members, suddenly opposed the coup. This was a major event to restore the glory of the Uchiha clan. I've heard about what you've done recently. I know very well that you are doing this for the Uchiha clan, but do you want us to ignore the pain that the clan members have endured? No, I know very well the pain of the clan members, so I did those things, but I also know that a coup at this time will only push the Uchiha clan into the abyss. If it really comes to that, I would rather use my life to bear the pain of the clan members in exchange for your awakening, rather than letting you go to destruction. Shisui looked up and looked directly into Fugaku's eyes. He was excited, and the end of the clan's annihilation was still vivid in his mind. With your life? Fugaku's eyes moved slightly, but he did not change his words and said, I recognize your awareness for saying such things. However, it is too late to say these things now. He swept all the clan members in the courtyard. This was everyone's decision. Facing Shisui's firm attitude, everyone looked at each other, and some even frowned and asked, Master Shisui, why do you do this for those people in Konoha? No, I am for Uchiha. Shisui did not look back. He looked at Fugaku and replied firmly, for Uchiha, I can endure these pains. For Uchiha, I can stand here and speak out against it and endure suspicion. For Uchiha, I hope to make the clan leader stop all this. Master Shisui, for Uchiha. Every word of Shisui's for Uchiha made everyone excited and guilty. They all saw what Shisui did during this period. If there is only one person here who really fights for Uchiha, they believe that this person must be Uchiha Shisui. What do you want to do? Fugaku noticed the expressions of the crowd and continued to ask. Give me a chance. I will explain this to the third generation, and I will give an explanation to all the clan members. Shisui bowed his head and pleaded sincerely. You know, even the clan leader cannot oppose the result of the clan meeting. Fugaku did not refuse directly, but looked at everyone and said. Shisui's eyes moved slightly. He looked up at Fugaku and understood. He slowly stood up, then bowed to everyone and pleaded, everyone, please believe me once. There were no extra words, just a request. Everyone was shocked. Seeing Shisui bowing, they didn't expect him to do this. If it's Lord Shisui. Yes, if it's Shisui. Everyone was silent for a moment, and then some discussions gradually sounded. After all, it's Lord Shisui. If it's him, we can trust him once, right? That's right. Lord Shisui has been busy for everyone recently. I believe he will not let us down. Until this moment, who in the crowd finally reacted. He raised his hand and shouted, give Lord Shisui a chance. Give Lord Shisui a chance. With him taking the lead, the voices gradually became louder and soon drowned out the other voices, and then tended to be unified. Seeing this, the second elder finally breathed a sigh of relief and sighed in his heart. You are worthy of being the grandson of Kagami. The result is determined, but since everyone is willing to give you a chance, I can also trust you once. But Fugaku said, his voice suddenly raised, the Uchiha will not endure this forever. 10 days. Shisui turned around and replied with a firm look, I will give an explanation to the clan members within 10 days. Then 10 days. If the situation still cannot be changed after 10 days, then the Uchiha will use force to seize everything. Whether it was Shisui or Fugaku, both of them had surprisingly firm eyes. The elder looked at the two of them, feeling relieved and puzzled at the same time, but he was mostly relieved. He didn't want to launch a coup at this time. It was too dangerous. The third generation, the three assistants, Orochimaru, the major ninja clans and the ninjas who had just returned from various battlefields. Although the village was not as good as before, it was still strong. If they acted rashly, they would only end up dead and the clan would be destroyed. Until this moment, the clan meeting was finally over, and Fugaku left the second elder and the others alone. The second elder looked depressed and had to exchange a few words with Shisui before taking them away. Everyone in the courtyard felt confused and unreal. It seemed that something big had happened today, but for some reason, they all breathed a sigh of relief when they left Nanga Shrine. Fortunately, everything was over. At night, Shisui and Hui hurried back home and told Sima Yi what happened at the clan meeting. I didn't expect Uncle Yi to miscalculate sometimes. I was really scared today. Hui patted his chest with an exaggerated look of shock on his face. Man proposes. God disposes. Sima Yi was not too surprised, but just sighed softly. Grandpa, was I too impulsive today? Shisui was a little worried. He was afraid that his actions would make their efforts in the past period of time come to naught. No, you did a good job. It's gratifying that you can make such a decision. Sima Yi did not exaggerate. He knew very well that the most terrible thing for a lord was indecision and difficulty in making decisions at critical moments. Shisui was able to seize the opportunity and act decisively, and he successfully convinced the tribe members, which was much better than expected. Really? Shisui's eyes lit up and he breathed a sigh of relief. Sima Yi nodded in affirmation, and then seemed to be puzzled and asked, however, why did this Fugaku change so much? Although Sima Yi did not dare to say that he fully understood Fugaku's character, he was not so different before and after. Why don't we call it Over to ask, who suggested, but was rejected by Shisui. No matter what the chief Fugaku thinks, we must succeed. Chapter 78. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Sir, this is the latest news. The prices of goods in the village are still rising. Recently, everyone is very complaining. There are more quarrels on the streets, and even some looting incidents have occurred. In the past, the police department has suppressed it, but today, in the Hokage building, the third generation already knew about the Uchiha clan meeting. He looked at the intelligence in his hand, and after the Anbu people left, he leaned back in his chair and kept smoking a pipe. The third generation frowned, thinking about the bad news and sighing. Konoha has been established for 50 years, and it is not that prices have never risen, but only this time he felt that something was wrong. But it is too late to investigate now. He doesn't even know why the prices can't go down. Obviously, the heavy snow has stopped and the trade route has been unblocked, but the villagers are still very resentful. In addition, he also knew the negative news about Uchiha that spread in the village. In fact, he was aware of the actions of Yude and Koharu and Mitaman before the new year, but the Uchiha could not affect many streets. He thought it was just a small suppression, but he didn't expect it to turn into this result. As for the negative news about him and the Uchiha clan, it was even more impossible to ignore it. Damn it, although he was a little indulged, what does this have to do with him? Someone must be doing something secretly. Who could it be? Hiruzen, you know everything about the Uchiha clan, right? These guys ran to the clan meeting in a threatening manner. They must be discussing a coup. I have said long ago that these evil Uchiha cannot be trusted. While he was thinking, the door of the office was pushed open, and Danzo rushed in aggressively. Why are you calling us here so urgently? Is there something big that the Uchiha clan is discussing again? After Danzo, Udatain Koharu and Mito Kato followed in. That shouldn't be the case. Given their personalities, they will quarrel for at least a few more days. After the three of them entered the office, they discussed among themselves. The Sandai immediately came back to his senses. He glanced at the three of them and asked, you all know about the rumors in the village and the things happening in the Uchiha clan territory, right? Udatain Koharu and Mitaman knew what the Sandai was referring to, but they both remained calm, as if they hadn't noticed. Danzo glanced at the two of them, feeling somewhat gloating, and said directly, these guys are just some rumors, but they made such a big fuss. They are not satisfied with quarreling in the clan territory, and they have to go there to hold a clan meeting. In my opinion, holding a clan meeting is just a cover. Maybe they just want to launch a coup. Why don't we take advantage of the clan meeting tomorrow to mobilize people to deal with those people, and the rest of the people will naturally behave themselves. These are the fighting forces of the village. Danzo, your idea is too extreme. Mitaman frowned upon hearing this, and immediately opened his mouth to refute. Udatain Koharu also nodded. Although they wanted to suppress the Uchiha, it was definitely unrealistic to destroy the other party based on speculation alone. Facing the accusation, Danzo snorted coldly and ignored it. The Sandai glanced at Danzo and didn't care about the other party's speculation and suggestions. In fact, although several people knew where the Uchiha people were holding a meeting, they didn't dare to send people to find out the content of the meeting. If there were no other ninjas to cover them, even if the four of them broke in, they would never come back. But the Sandai believed that since he had already made such a concession, Fugaku had no reason to suddenly stab him in the back. As long as he stabilized the Uchiha and waited for Shisui to come and tell him the content of the meeting, he would use Shisui's hands to discuss with Fugaku, and the problem would be solved quickly. The village is still the village, the Uchiha is still the Uchiha, everyone lives in peace, and no one can do without him. So now he wants to know who is secretly ruining his reputation. Don't worry about the Uchiha clan meeting. Let's talk about the vendors outside their clan territory. I have told them several times not to provoke the Uchiha clan. The Sandai gritted his teeth. He was really going to be pissed off by these guys. The Third Shinobi World War has not ended yet. Now it's just a truce. They can't do without the Uchiha clan at all. There are constant frictions in the north, and at least 3 war reports are sent in a day. Seeing that the Sandai mentioned the vendors on the street again, the two of them had to remain silent. After a while, they explained, "We are just worried that they will affect the Uchiha clan meeting. We didn't expect it to develop to this point." The Sandai certainly didn't believe it, but he didn't pursue the issue further. Instead, he asked, "What about the rumors in the Uchiha clan territory?" Speaking of this, Koharu Utatane and Unmidokado looked at each other and looked at Danzo, who was watching the show on the side in tacit understanding. Seeing that the 3 of them were looking at him, Danzo's face changed immediately. "Why are you looking at me? It's not me who did it." The third generation narrowed his eyes, looked at Utatane Koharu, then looked at Danzo, and finally his eyes fell on Danzo. "I repeat again, you should do your own things during this period. I will handle the Uchiha's affairs. Don't cause any more trouble." After saying that, the third generation did not listen to the explanations of the few people, and ordered the 3 people to return to the clan land. Danzo was furious, snorted coldly and slammed the door and left. "Hey teacher." The third generation looked up and remembered how carefree he was when the second generation was still there. "Go call Shisui." After a moment, he sighed and whispered, "Yes." However, the Anbu had just left for a few breaths and returned again, reporting to the Hokage, "Shisui wants to see you." "Huh? Ha ha ha. Let Shisui come in." The third generation was happy, and quickly adjusted his expression to show a kind look. There are still people in the Uchiha who support him. "Greetings, Lord Sandaime." "Oh, why is Shisui here? Have you rested and are ready to return to the Anbu?" "Ha ha ha. Don't worry, report to Lord Sandaime. Clan leader Fugaku is preparing to launch a coup." Bang! Sandaime's smile suddenly stopped, his heart suddenly shrank, and the pipe in his hand fell to the ground. The Anbu inside and outside the room immediately reacted. "Ahem, stand down." Sandaime coughed and scolded, then frowned. Feeling betrayed, he looked at Shisui with disbelief. "Who wants a coup?" "Clan leader Fugaku." "Who? Uchiha Fugaku? Why would he rebel?" "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He has cooperated with Fugaku for so many years." "If he hadn't acquiesced, how could Uchiha Mikoto become good friends with the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki? And how could anyone from Uchiha become a disciple of the 4th Hokage? He even gave his father's name to Fugaku's son." Sandaime would rather believe that Fugaku was killed by several elders of the Uchiha clan than believe that Fugaku would actually rebel. Why? Why did Fugaku betray him? The third generation suppressed his anger and a little panic, and asked in a low voice, "The village's exclusion of the tribe members is too serious, which has greatly affected the survival of ordinary tribe members. Everyone can't stand it." So they voted at the tribe meeting to launch a coup, and the vote was also agreed by the chief Fugaku. The third generation looked at Shisui and immediately remembered what the other party had done during this period. He was immediately annoyed. It was just a few bags of rice and flour. If he had known that he would pay this money, why would he force the other party to this point? However, things have already happened, and it is useless to think too much. The third generation is just fortunate that at least Shisui is still loyal. He still guards the will of fire and still chooses to stand on the side of Konoha. Now that Konoha has obtained this information first, it can take the lead even if it takes action. The third generation was silent for a moment, and still asked unwillingly, "Has it reached the point of no return?" "No, there is still a chance. I made a plea with my groupmates." "Konoha, recasting the glory of Uchiha is better than mine. It is a time travel system flow. and easy to check out if you are interested. Chapter 79, Replacing Fugaku. The third generation opened his eyes, looked at it fiercely, and immediately stepped forward and said, "Tell me quickly." Patriarch Fugaku has promised me that as long as I can solve this problem within 10 days, I can give up the coup. 10 days. The third generation's face changed, and he frowned and began to think about how to solve the problem. What is the problem involved in this incident? The Uchiha clan does not have enough income, the villagers are too exclusive, and because of the rising prices, the villagers' anger is getting bigger and bigger, and it has been directed to the police department. There is also mutual distrust between the internal and the top. These problems are old and new, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are historical relics. It is simple to let the third generation temporarily alleviate it. He can draw funds from other departments to compensate the Uchiha, and then force those people to shut up. In this way, it may be effective within 10 days, but it cannot ease the contradiction for a long time, and it may rebound violently within half a month. Thinking of this, the Sandai looked uglier and uglier. He looked at Shisui and said, "It may be difficult to solve the problem within 10 days. Can we discuss with Fugaku and ask him to give the village more time?" Clan leader Fugaku's attitude is very firm. "I begged the clan members for these 10 days. Shisui looked sad and shook his head slowly, seeming to be a little desperate. Yes, the Uchiha clan had never made a decision so quickly in previous meetings. Since Fugaku was so decisive, he must have made up his mind. The situation was clear. He now had only two choices, either to satisfy the Uchiha's appetite within 10 days, or to make full preparations to quell the rebellion within 10 days and then take the initiative to kill the Uchiha's high-level officials. In 10 days, we can only try our best to meet their demands, but if we can't avoid it when that day comes, the village may be destroyed by civil strife." Thinking of the situation in the village in the north, the Sandai had a headache. Once the Uchiha clan erupts in civil strife at this time, the Land of Lightning will certainly invade in a big way. Not to mention the Land of Water, the two poor people of the Land of Earth and the Land of Wind will definitely not miss this opportunity. Even if they are on crutches, they will come to take a bite. If, listening to the almost depressed words of the third generation, Shisui lowered his head with a tangled expression and spoke in a low voice. The third generation seemed to have grasped the last straw and asked, "If what?" "If I can replace the clan leader Fugaku as the new clan leader, and the village compensates the clan members, perhaps I can prevent the coup from happening." "Replace Fugaku?" The third generation widened his eyes. He looked at Shisui in surprise, his brain working wildly. It's not that he doesn't want to support Shisui. It's just too difficult, and this is the internal affairs of the Uchiha clan. If he intervenes, more than one Uchiha will stand up. But if he doesn't do this, Konoha will be finished. "Are you sure?" Without much hesitation, the third generation asked softly, "If you can help me, I will try my best for Konoha." Shisui pondered for a moment, then looked up at the Sandai and nodded heavily in response. Shisui could make Fugaku postpone the coup, and maybe he really had the hope of replacing him. The Sandai was moved. He took a deep breath, patted Shisui's shoulder and said in a deep voice, "I will fully support you, but I can't be exposed. Otherwise the village will be in greater turmoil." "I understand. Thank you, Sandai." The Sandai helped Shisui up, his expression sincere. "This is what the village owes you." He knew very well that if this was discovered, Shisui would die. "No. Everything is for Konoha and for Uchiha." Shisui looked serious, as if he had already realized that he was going to die. The Sandai sighed and promised, "Please Shisui, as long as we buy some more time, the village will treat the Uchiha clan well in the future." After getting the promise, the two discussed the details again, and the Sandai even paid out of his own pocket to have someone go back to the Sarutobi clan to get 5 million ryo and give it to Shisui. "The future of Konoha depends on you." Taking the responsibility from the Sandai, Shisui nodded heavily and left. After Shisui left, the Sandai hesitated for a moment but still did not call the three assistants. He knew that if Denzo knew that he guessed correctly, the matter would only become more complicated. Remove all the sentries deployed near the Uchiha clan's territory, and let Kakashi lead the team to increase manpower surveillance a little further away. Any large-scale gatherings must be reported in a timely manner. Yes, go tell Shinosu to strengthen the guards in the clan territory during this period, and notify Yuki to recall the Anbu who are on vacation one after another, and don't make too big moves. Yes, also, arrange Uchiha and the others to serve as the leading jonin to go to the rain country to gather intelligence. Yes, the Sandai paced back and forth in the office, issuing many instructions one after another. The entire Konoha Anbu was quietly operating under his orders. And Shisui returned home with the promise of the Sandai. The third generation has agreed. He will help me as much as possible in secret. It was already late at night. In the past, Sima Yi would not agree to Shisui meeting the third generation at this time, but the entire Uchiha high level knew about this matter, so there was no need to avoid suspicion. Great. I have also persuaded some people from the police department in private. Now with the help of the third generation, Shisui's hope of becoming the clan leader is a little greater. Hui had not left yet, and had been waiting in the study with Sima Yi until now. He nodded excitedly when he heard this. With Grandpa's arrangement, I believe it will not be a problem to become the clan leader. But can we make the clan members give up the idea of a coup within 10 days? Shisui was more worried about not being able to solve this problem. Even if he became the clan leader, he would still not be able to suppress the rebelliousness of the clan members. Sima Yi had already thought about this problem. He smiled calmly and confessed, let alone 10 days. Even if it is 10 months, I can't completely solve the root cause of the problem. When these words came out, both of them were stunned, and Hua's face was visibly flustered. Shisui reacted quickly and guessed, if it can't be completely solved, then it can be temporarily alleviated. Well, that's right, the problems between the village and the Uchiha are deep-rooted. It will not be a matter of a day or a night to completely eliminate them. However, it is not difficult to temporarily suppress the contradictions and meet the needs of all parties to maintain peace for a few months. As for the coup of the clan members, you don't need to worry about it. You can take a look. Sima Yi took out a few letters from the table and explained, these are the letters that several clan elders secretly sent just now. These two are from the first elder and the second elder. You can read them first. Shisui was puzzled, opened them casually and flipped through them. And then he was surprised. The first elder and Shisui had a close relationship secretly. The words in the letter were relatively direct, urging him to replace Fugaku immediately, and the Uchiha must not launch a coup now. The second elder was a little more tactful, just stating his consistent position, stating the pros and cons and expressing his strong support for him to resolve the conflict between the family and the village. Then he opened the letters from other elders. Whether it was the first elder or the second elder, everyone's opinions were surprisingly consistent. They all hoped that he could solve the problem, so that Uchiha would still be Konoha's Uchiha. The attitudes of the people in the letters were very different from the tit-for-tat in the clan meeting, which made Shisui a little confused. It's really strange. They were there during the day. It seems that I misunderstood them. The elders are actually dedicated to Konoha and Uchiha. Shisui looked happy and seemed to have suddenly realized something. Hua's mouth twitched and he couldn't help rolling his eyes. He also knew some of the content of the letter, but in his opinion, some of them were not considering the overall situation, but were not forced to the point of a coup. After calming down, they became cowardly. After all, no matter how much the prices rise, it will not affect them, especially those in the police department. After they put on their clothes, which stubborn vendor dared to refuse to do business with them? As for the rumors in the village, they have been listening to them for many years. It was just that there were more conflicts among villagers recently, which made them feel a little troubled. Ha ha ha. I guess so. They know the strength of the clan best. It's a good thing to have an accurate understanding. Sima Yi responded with a smile, and then said, I have already made plans for the general clan members and Konoha, but there is one person that I am a little unsure about, and I need to test him. Shisui nodded and said immediately, Grandpa, are you talking about the clan leader Fugaku? When it comes to Fugaku, who rarely falls silent, he originally hated the other party's constant tolerance, but when Fugaku spoke directly about the coup, He was extremely frightened. His usual dissatisfaction and tyranny subsided instantly. His reaction is unreasonable. There may be variables. Let's test it tomorrow. I understand, Grandpa. The next day, in the backyard of Fugaku's house, Ichi walked through the living room to the backyard and saw Fugaku feeding the fish, and Uchiha Tetsuka half kneeling in the yard with his head lowered. Tetsuka seemed to be saying something, and stopped after noticing Ichi, but his expression was a little ugly. Dad, Shisui is here. Ichi looked at Fugaku's back with complex emotions flashing in his eyes. Let him in. Fugaku didn't even turn his head and continued to feed the pond. Ichi nodded and left. A moment later, Shisui came to Tetsuka and saluted, saying, Chief, you came to me at this time. Have you solved the problem of the clan? No. The purpose of my visit is to seek the help of the chief. Oh? Fugaku looked at Shisui in confusion, and Tetsuka also looked sideways. Tell me about it. In order to resolve the conflict between the family and the villagers, I hope to join the police department and borrow everyone's strength. After saying this, Fugaku's hand paused slightly, and he looked at Shisui and fell silent. Tetsuka's eyes widened, observing the two back and forth. After a long time, Fugaku said, I see. Well, since it's for the family, then Tetsuka will be your deputy from now on. Chief, Tetsuka couldn't believe his ears. Letting him be Shisui's deputy meant that Shisui replaced him as the captain of the first squad of the police force. If he was asked to monitor Shisui, why did he give Shisui such a big convenience? Tyuo was a little confused. Did he not explain it clearly enough at the beginning? Shisui was also stunned. He did not expect Fugaku to let him do it all at once. This trust made him feel relieved and guilty at the same time. Thank you, clan leader. I will not let you down. I will definitely solve this problem as soon as possible. After that, Shisui did not want to stay here for long and left in a hurry. Seeing Shisui leave, Tyuo could no longer suppress his doubts and immediately reminded him. The rumor that Shisui wants to become the clan leader has spread to every corner of the clan. I am afraid that he has other intentions to join the police department now. Before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by Fugaku, who said calmly, Don't pay attention to it, just cooperate with him on the police department's affairs. I will handle the rest. Why are you so confident? Tyuo has noticed the change of people's hearts in the police department for a long time. He doesn't understand why Fugaku is still so calm, but since the other party has said so, he has to give up. Yes. As soon as Tetsuo walked out of Fugaku's house, he saw Shisui standing outside the door waiting for him. Captain Shisui. Facing Shisui, Tetsuo's mood was particularly complicated, with admiration, anger, and a little guilt. I'm going to the police department now. Brother Tetsuo, do you want to come with me? Shisui had calmed down and strengthened his belief at this moment. He wanted to gain as much power as possible. Okay. The two crossed the street without saying a word. After arriving at the police department and completing the procedures, Shisui immediately called everyone to issue the following orders in the name of the captain of the first team. First, arrest some vendors who have refused to trade with the Uchiha clan in recent days on the grounds of hoarding goods, disrupting the market, and undermining the internal stability of Konoha. Second, recall all members of the police department on the grounds of rectification. They do not need to patrol the streets within 7 days, and only retain the tasks of interrogation and custody. Third, during the rectification period, temporary patrol tasks will be issued to Konoha ninjas in the name of the police department. Patrol ninjas need to strictly follow Konoha laws to arrest all those who undermine Konoha's stability. Tyuo looked at the 3 orders with a headache. Let's not talk about the problems of these orders themselves. Just one point is that Shisui is only the captain of the first team. How to convince the other teams to agree is a problem. However, Uchiha Yashiro, the second team has no objection. Uchiha Yangs, the third team has no objection. Uchiha Inahiro, I have no objection either. Tyuo looked at the few people in surprise. Inahiro agreed that he could understand. After all, Shisui was also sent by the head of the Fugaku clan. Why did the other two agree so easily? Didn't they always support the ideas of the Great Elder? Brother Tyuo, You still lead the first team. You set out immediately to arrest the vendors. I have to go to the Hokage building to submit the task commission. Shisui took out a list and added, the information of those people is on the list. You can arrest them according to the list. Remember to read out the charges when arresting. Taking the list, Tuo glanced at it and found that there were only more than 20 people on it, and they were distributed on various streets, which was obviously inconsistent with the situation of a large number of people concentrated outside the Uchiha clan. Of course, with his understanding of Shisui, he believed that the people above would not be wronged. Although he still had doubts in his heart, he was relieved after watching Shisui's measured, confident and calm attitude, so he replied softly, yes, they are all clickbait titles. They beat faster than my heart. I wrote a little more today, and I will continue to write later, but I may have to save it. School will start next month, so I saved some chapters for emergency use. Chapter 80. What's going on? Recalling the members of the guard department and issuing tasks to ask other ninjas to take over the positions temporarily. If it was the previous 3 generations, they would definitely not agree. How could he not know the role of the police department? But the situation was stronger than the people. Now he not only agreed, but also asked the Anbu to block the news from the 3 assistants, helping Shisui as much as possible. Afterwards, not only did he use the Anbu's account to make up for the reward of this patrol mission, but he also directly upgraded the level of this mission from C level to A level. Although the mission reward did not increase, the resume looked good. You know, A-level missions are generally only performed by Jonin. As soon as this mission was issued, it was immediately snatched by a large number of ninjas, not to mention the resume of A-level missions. In 7 days, the reward of 100,000 taels is basically nothing compared to the risks involved. Who doesn't know the work of the police department? You don't even have to leave the village. It's easy. For this reason, the 3 generations deliberately set restrictions, and only Chunin and above can accept this mission. But even so, there are still many ninjas who snatch the mission, and there are even many Jonin who have just been free. Only some of the older Jonin and ninjas from big families understood the trick and wisely ignored this mission. At the same time, Sima Yi also received news from Shisui. He immediately called Yingshu and ordered, you should collect the opinions of the clan members in the past few days, and focus on the ordinary clan members. In addition, from tomorrow, spread the news that Shisui visited Danzo and Koharu Utatane on New Year's Day and was rejected. Focus on Danzo, but don't exaggerate, just spread it truthfully. Yingshu has done a lot for Sima Yi. Just listening to his instructions, he understood a lot and immediately responded, okay, butler, I will go and give the order. Sima Yi nodded. Yingshu's work so far still made him feel at ease. After Yingshu left, Sima Yi looked at the intelligence in his hand and thought hard for a long time, but still couldn't guess Fugaku's motives. After a moment, he shook his head and ignored it. Since Shisui has initially controlled the police department, they are one step closer to success. Now the people's hearts are in favor and there are other gods backing him up. He doesn't believe that the other party can still turn the world upside down. After thinking for a moment, he picked up the scroll on the table and prepared to keep one last trick in case of emergency. On the other hand, the police department dispatched a large number of people to act separately and quickly went to various streets in Konoha to arrest criminals, who even volunteered to enter the street he often went to inside the village and walked straight to the bun shop. The owner of the bun shop saw 3 ninjas in police uniforms coming here aggressively. He first curled his lips, then was stunned. When he saw that the leader was actually the evil god from the past, his face turned pale instantly, and he immediately turned around and was about to walk in. Huh, stand there, Hui snorted coldly, and then shouted lightly. The owner of the bun shop trembled violently, and sweat broke out on his forehead. He stood there and dared not move. Good morning, sirs. I wonder what you want to talk to me about? The boss was frightened when he saw Hui's smile was not like a good person, and he stuttered and asked timidly. Hui said jokingly, hey, isn't this the boss of the bun shop? Wasn't he very arrogant that day? Why are you so cowardly after not seeing you for a few days? The boss shook his head repeatedly with a crying voice. Sir Ninja, you are joking. I was just bewitched that day. I personally still admire Uchiha very much and I definitely don't have any intention of targeting you." Hui pouted and looked at the empty cage and asked, "Where are the buns?" "Look, it's almost noon now, and the buns have been sold out." Upon hearing this, Hui immediately raised his voice and threatened, "Huh? No, if you don't have it, I will arrest you." "Yes, yes, 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 I will make it right away. Please wait a moment." The boss was smart, wiped the sweat from his forehead and ran to the back kitchen. Hui couldn't help but smile when he saw this, while the two people behind him frowned slightly. This person was not on the list. Such wanton bullying of villagers would damage the reputation of Uchiha. The two were about to dissuade them when they saw Hui wave his hand and walk to the pork shop on the other side of the street. The owner of the pork shop was sitting in the back at this moment, and ignored the three people. Hui took a look at this person and then took out the wanted list and asked, "Are you Namoto Raosong?" Namoto Raosong had a fierce face, but he still showed no fear in the face of the three ninjas from the police department. He asked naturally, "It's me, what's wrong?" Xiao Hui raised his eyebrows and immediately waved his hand and said, "Catch him." The two people behind him pressed Namoto Raosong to the ground the moment they heard the order, and then tied him up. A boy in the shop was helping, and when he saw the people from the police department taking action, he immediately raised his knife and chopped at Hui. "Let go of my dad." "So there's another ninja. Little guy, are you sure you want to fight me?" Hui took a glance and sensed the chakra in the other party's body. He grabbed the blade with a casual slap. Seeing that the other party was about to make a seal, he immediately asked with a smile, "Wrong, stop it." Namoto Raosong, who was lying on the ground, quickly recovered. Seeing that his son was still going to attack the police department, he immediately scolded him. In the absence of the Anbu, the police department is orthodox and can represent the highest will of Konoha. Facing the police department, you can abuse, quibble, and lie on the ground to act like a rogue, but very few people dare to resist violently. Hearing his father's scolding, Namoto Raosong finally reacted and quickly stopped and stood aside with his head down. The sudden change also made the people around a little flustered, but after recognizing the person who took action, they surrounded him one after another. In an instant, the pork shop was crowded with onlookers inside and outside. "Police, what are you going to do?" "I am a villager of Konoha. I have not done anything wrong. Why are you arresting me?" "I will report you to the Hokage. You are relying on your family to bully the weak." Although Namoto Raosong was pinned to the ground, he was still full of energy. Seeing more and more villagers, he immediately struggled and screamed. It was another case of the police taking advantage of their power to bully others. The matter seemed to be determined in an instant. When everyone was about to discuss it, they saw Hui suddenly shouting, "Namoto Raosong, taking advantage of the heavy snow on the New Year and the blockage of the trade route, you wantonly hoarded goods and raised prices, disrupting the market, making the lives of the villagers of Konoha more difficult." It has been verified that he is suspected of being an enemy spy who destroyed the people's livelihood in Konoha. He is now immediately arrested and interrogated by the police. This store will be sealed immediately, and all the people involved will be arrested. Disrupting the market, enemy spy? Namoto Raosong's face suddenly changed when he heard this. He had never done this, and he was about to deny it immediately. However, who immediately looked at the two men after he finished speaking. The two men understood, and one of them directly removed Namoto Raosong's jaw when he opened his mouth. "You are talking nonsense. This is a frame-up." Seeing his father's mouth blocked, Namoto Raosong immediately spoke, and before he finished speaking, another man took action and subdued him in an instant. Then he looked at the other helpers in the shop and shouted coldly, "Honestly, squat down. Otherwise don't blame me for taking action." The other helpers were just ordinary people. How could they dare to resist the ninjas of the police department? And they all lowered their heads and squatted together. Until this moment, the onlookers reacted. Some people even asked the people around them with a puzzled expression, "Didn't the police department just say that the reason why things are so expensive recently is because the owner of the pork shop raised the prices?" "Yes, he did. And that's not all. This bastard is a spy from the enemy country, who came to harm us." "Damn it, asshole. I said that the things in his store must be short of weight. It turns out that he is a spy from the enemy country, who wants to cheat us of our money. What a damn guy. No wonder the price of wine is so expensive recently. I have been forced to quit drinking. It's all your fault. Keksiu. Throw him in jail and beat him to death. I said why I always lose money in gambling recently. The owner of the gambling house must be in the same group. Beat them to death. Beat him to death. Everyone calm down. He may have accomplices. We need to take him back for interrogation. The shouts suddenly rouse, and the faces of the three people changed. Hui hurriedly stepped forward to persuade them to prevent the villagers from getting too excited. The two took Namoto meat floss and a group of helpers in the pork shop and ran away immediately. Chapter 81. Enough, Koharu. I am the Hokage. The public outcry was so intense that Hu almost didn't react. In order to avoid hurting the helpers, Hu immediately formed a seal and summoned several shadow clones to stop them. Although the shadow clones couldn't withstand too much impact, it was not a big deal for Hu to stop some ordinary people with the strength of a ninja. The three of them evacuated. When they passed the street corner, the owner of the bun shop was looking at the excitement. He was shocked to see the police arresting Namoto Raosag. It's bad. It's bad. They really arrested him. Hu took the time to look back and glanced at him and said directly, "Send the buns to the police later, and they must be more and bigger. If you dare to cut corners, you will be the next one. Don't dare." The bun shop stood straight, subconsciously responded loudly with a crying voice, and then ran back to the shop with a whimper. At the same time, the same thing was happening in various streets of Konoha. Behind every arrested vendor was a large number of Konoha villagers who kept cursing. They seemed to have found an outlet to vent all the misfortunes and dissatisfaction in their lives during this period on these vendors. This made the other small vendors who had offended the Uchiha panic, fearing that they would be the next one. When they saw the police department, they hid far away in a corner and dared not show their faces. It also surprised the ninjas who came and went. Such a big move naturally could not be concealed. It spread throughout Konoha that morning, and the three assistants soon learned the news. Danzo was sulking, but fortunately, the funding he had obtained from the Jounin conference suddenly arrived for some reason, and the root organization also returned to his hands from the Anbu. Now he wants to continue to build his root organization, so after hearing the news, he just cursed evil Uchiha and ignored it. Uchiha Koharu was dissatisfied and wanted to come to the third Hokage to discuss with Mito Kato-en, but unexpectedly, Mito Kato-en refused on the grounds that the logistics troops were busy recently. Uchiha Koharu had no choice but to come alone. When she arrived at the Hokage building and learned about the patrol mission, she was immediately furious and ran to the Sandai's office, kicked open the door and demanded, "Hiruzen, do you know what you are doing?" The Sandai was busy using a crystal ball to patrol the situation near the Uchiha clan's territory. When he heard the door being kicked open, he almost thought it was Danzo who came. It was the teacher's idea to let only Uchiha stay in the police department. Don't you know the teacher's purpose? How could you agree to let them find a replacement? Moreover, a C-level mission was raised to A-level, and the mission reward is so generous. What exactly do you want to do? The Sandai just breathed a sigh of relief, and Uchiha Koharu asked him again. Also, those guys in the police department are persecuting innocent villagers everywhere in the village. What's the matter with this Uchiha Shisui? Isn't he a member of the Anbu? How can he still hold a position in the police department? He made the whole Konoha restless on his first day in the police department. Why don't you order Fugako to be called in for questioning immediately? Seeing Uchiha Koharu talking non-stop, the Sandai frowned and smoked his pipe. After a while, Uchiha Koharu saw that the Sandai had not said a word and gradually realized that something was wrong, and quieted down. "Hiruzen, I'm doing this for your own good. Uchiha Shisui's doing this will only." Enough. The Sandai was already upset, and he finally couldn't stand it anymore. He asked in a low voice, "Who instigated those vendors, hoarding goods, disrupting market prices, and harming people's livelihood? Can it be unjust that such people were arrested? They just didn't sell the things to the Uchiha. It was a normal transaction. And how could they become spies of the enemy country who harm people's livelihood? That means you knew that someone instigated them?" Uchiha Koharu was speechless. She quickly skipped the topic and continued to ask, Then we can't let other people patrol instead of the Uchiha. Don't you know how big the hidden dangers will be? The Sandai had nothing to say about this matter, and he didn't intend to explain. He immediately said, I have agreed. Let's do it this way. Don't interfere, Hiruzen. Enough, Koharu. I am the Hokage. The Sandai shouted angrily, and Uchiha Koharu froze in place. She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. She could only snort coldly and turned away. After they left, the Sandai sighed. The earliest they could know about the Uchiha's coup was the 9th day, otherwise there would be no room for maneuver. Shisui, Konoha's safety depends on you, don't let me down. In the police department, who found Shisui to report after arresting Namotaro-san and others in prison. All the people have been arrested. What should we do with them next? Who knew whether these people were collaborators or not, so he was curious about how to deal with them. Don't pay attention to them for now. Separate the helpers from them and wait until the situation stabilizes. These people were not important as long as they didn't show up, and Shisui didn't have time to interrogate them. After a brief reply, he ordered, everyone will be back soon. Brother Hui, go to the street and prepare lunch for everyone. The ninjas who will take on the mission will be here soon. Remember to buy more. We are busy today. Hui nodded immediately and said, don't worry, I'll go right away. Not long after Hui left, other members of the police department also returned one after another. They moved quickly and completed the arrest and publicity tasks before noon and returned to the headquarters. I have submitted the repair plan to the 3rd generation and the head of the Fugaku clan, and they have approved it. In addition, I have also issued commission tasks to other partners in Konoha, and the people who will take on the tasks will arrive soon. However, there are no new police department uniforms in the warehouse. I hope you can lend them the clothes temporarily. Shisui has actually taken control of the police department, and the people standing here are all well-trained elite ninjas. After hearing the order, they immediately took off their outer clothes. Tyuo stood aside and was quite surprised to see this. He thought these people would complain a little, but he didn't expect them to cooperate so well. As soon as everyone took off their clothes, someone came to Shisui and reported, several ninjas who have taken on the mission have come to confirm the mission information. Should we let them in now? Shisui nodded, and then the person started to bring the ninjas outside in. Shisui was stunned when he saw the face of the leader. Shisui-sama, Koizumi Jounin. The person who came was Koizumi Satsuki, a special Jounin who had come to reinforce on the western front but was rescued by Shisui and his men. It's really Shisui-sama. Koizumi Satsuki was excited and walked quickly to Shisui. I heard that Shisui-sama joined the police department and entrusted this mission, so I came here immediately. It's great to see you here again. Shisui was also full of joy. He looked at Koizumi Satsuki, and then at some people behind him. Many of them were subordinates who had been given ninjutsu by him. His emotions were suddenly a little difficult to express. Those who are righteous have many helpers, while those who are unrighteous have few helpers. Sima Yi's teachings flashed through his mind, and he had a new understanding. No, it's great that you are willing to help. The ninjas from the police department stood aside and looked at each other. Although they didn't know these people, they couldn't help but feel proud to see them being so respectful to Shisui, and they all straightened their chests. When looking at these people, he even showed a little smile that he thought was gentle. I thought it was updated at 10 o'clock yesterday, but I found it was 8 o'clock. I almost forgot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Reading, Training. Koizumi Satsuki and others were the first group of ninjas to arrive. Shisui specially helped them choose the more suitable uniforms and whispered, if you encounter any difficulties during the mission, you can return to the police department hall in time. I will arrange people to stay here to help. If you have free time later, you can also ask them about training problems. This is Shisui's private promise. Several people naturally understood and nodded in ecstasy. Soon, not long after Koizumi Satsuki and others arrived, other ninjas arrived one after another. until Hoa came back with a group of clones carrying lunch with a happy face, holding his chest. The ninjas who came to confirm the mission information had basically arrived. After lunch, Shisui asked the ninjas on both sides to confirm the information before the mission. Specifically, they read through the Konoha lore regarding disputes among ordinary people and street management, because the Uchiha people will not go out for patrols in the next 7 days. These people must know these basic contents to maintain the stability of Konoha. So for a whole afternoon, both sides began to understand the law with red faces, until the evening. All the Uchiha people watched these people leave from the gate with their heads down in anger. Before leaving, Shisui smiled gently and comforted them. Starting tomorrow, Konoha's stability will be in your hands. Don't worry, if you have any questions, you can come to the police department immediately. I will arrange people to help you. Shisui did not have too high requirements for these people, nor did he require them to be able to control the intensity of punishment. They only needed to do 4 words. Strict law enforcement. It is only necessary to judge whether the villagers' behavior has crossed the line. If it crosses the line, they will be arrested. If it does not cross the line, they will be ignored. That's all. Thank you, Lord Shisui. Lord Shisui is so gentle as expected of Lord Shisui. They also learned today that many things that they thought were very normal in the past were actually illegal. However, they were still uncomfortable after being scolded by a group of Uchiha for a long time. They wanted to fight but couldn't, and they wanted to argue with the other party who was professional. Now that they were comforted, they felt a lot more relaxed. Shisui is too gentle, who stood behind with his arms crossed, looking at everyone with a frown. He was also very annoyed after teaching for an afternoon. Okay, the training will start tomorrow. I'll treat everyone to a drink today. How about we relax together? After seeing off Koizumi Satsuki and others, Shisui heard Hua's complaints and had to put on a smile to appease the tribesmen. Really? That's great. Long live Lord Shisui. We won't go home until we're drunk tonight. We won't go home until we're drunk. Oh wow. Because of the coup, everyone was under pressure, and at this moment they relaxed a lot and cheered immediately. Shisui smiled and led everyone to gather on the street that night. Although the vendors on the street didn't see the uniforms of the police department, they also knew the origins of these people. Thinking of the terrifying moments during the day, they all put on smiles. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 kinds of dishes, everyone opened their mouths and began to pour out their grievances. Shisui was not yet of drinking age, so he just held a drink and listened quietly to the side to prevent these people from saying anything inappropriate. Fortunately, everyone instinctively remained vigilant and didn't mention the coup. As soon as they gathered here, the 3 generations received the news immediately and were shocked. They sighed slowly after knowing that it was Shisui. Shisui, please don't let me down. Money. I have money in my pocket. Late at night, when Shisui brought Hua, who was drunk and talking in his sleep, home, Sima Yi had already fallen asleep. Shisui wanted to talk to Sima Yi about what happened today, but he had to give up. It was not until the next morning that he came to the study to report the progress to Sima Yi. Keep your mind stable and down to earth. The more times like this, the more you need to keep a normal mind. I will help you control the public opinion inside and outside the clan. You just need to watch the police department. Sima Yi was studying books in the study as usual, without any chaos. Shisui was also deeply affected by this and gradually calmed down. Grandpa, since you have to watch them, why don't I just take them to read books? The training of the police department was just an excuse. The key point for the next period of time was to prevent them from appearing in front of the villagers. This is not easy, because he cannot explain the reason directly, so Shisui needs to have enough prestige and patience to restrain them from time to time, and to understand them so that they do not feel anxious and dissatisfied. Not only that, but also try to make these people feel a sense of accomplishment in preventing the coup without participating. In this regard, Sima Yi's suggestion is, train the troops. Training? Sima Yi shook his head and explained, it's just a reference, not real training, but studying is definitely not suitable for them, and we can't do that now, as it will easily arouse the 3rd generation's suspicion. Training is more in line with your usual image. and you are strong and can calm them down in this regard. Train more and tire the body, so that they don't have time to think too much. Set up some assessments in a few days, and you can give them some encouragement after they pass. In this way, they will naturally have a sense of belonging, and when they return to the police department, the changes in the outside world will be attributed to themselves. Shisui suddenly realized and immediately added, "It's very similar to the method Grandpa used to deal with Uchiha. Ha ha ha. Yes, that's right, but you'd better discuss the training location with the third generation, so that he doesn't think too much." "I understand, Grandpa. I'll go now." Shisui nodded and set off. Not long after he left, who also walked in with a confused look on his face. As Shisui left, Sima Yi saw Hua so slovenly and whispered, "He just left." "Don't drink too much these days to avoid making mistakes." Hua scratched his head, a little embarrassed. Hee, this time it was an accident. It's because Shisui was here. I'm usually very cautious. Just be sensible. Sima Yi stopped talking and didn't say much. "By the way, Uncle Yi, there is one more thing I forgot to say when I was drunk last night. Yesterday, those merchants secretly sent people to deliver a lot of things after seeing the police arrest people." Hua took out the scroll and took out 10 suitcases from it. He opened them one by one and placed them in front of Sima Yi. "I calculated that these people have delivered about 10 million taels in total. 10 boxes, each box was filled with a thick layer of banknotes worth 1,000 taels. Sima Yi just glanced at it and chuckled. "Haha, these people are really well informed and quick to act." Hua was a little confused and asked, "Should we take the money?" "Take it. If we don't take it, we won't be able to sleep in the future." "You can't sleep without money, right?" Hua thought for a moment and understood something, but soon he didn't care. Anyway, they were willing to give it, so he was willing to take it. Just as he was about to reach out to cover the box, he heard Sima Yi say, "Leave the money here for now, you can use it later." Hua stopped immediately, although he was a little sorry that he couldn't sleep with the money tonight. That was all. He didn't have any bad habits. The money he got before was just used to eat and drink with the people in the police department. However, it was difficult to spend all the money on food and drink, so there was still a lot left in his pocket. "It's just right. The money has been taken. You can inform them by the way, so you don't have to inform them one by one." What to inform? Chapter 83. It's not me. I didn't. Sima Yi smiled and closed the suitcases on the table one by one and piled them aside, then ordered, "Go tell them that the people from Konoha who caused cholera have been caught. They are the pillars of Konoha's livelihood. Konoha cannot do without them. As long as they do business well, they will not be affected. In addition, the spies who drove up prices and disrupted the market have been put in jail. Prices in Konoha will soon begin to drop, and this time should be 5 days later, within 7 days. Hiss. I understand. Hua looked at Sima Yi and couldn't help but take a breath and nodded repeatedly. Uncle Yi, you are worthy of being me. If you have any other instructions, please tell me. I have to go to guard the police department with Sister Yang's later. Sima Yi shook his head and simply said, "It's nothing serious. Remember to hide yourself and collect information from the villagers to grasp public opinion in time." Understood. I'll leave first then. Hua agreed and left. Sima Yi looked at the suitcases piled up on the side and smiled. This money came at a good time. The good thing is that it came at the right time. Sima Yi used Shisui's money to lay out the intelligence network, buy spies, purchase supplies and buy materials for preparing sealing techniques. He has always been generous in rewarding those spies. Now that he has to spend money in many places, the funds in his hands are almost exhausted. Jin Huo, go to the tribe and check the tribe members whose houses were damaged by the heavy snow. By the way, tell them that Shisui plans to build some houses on the vacant land in the southwest of the tribe and may need some workers at that time. Since Yangshu had other things to do, Sima Yi had to call Jin Huo to give instructions. Jin Huo patted his chest and looked a little excited. Okay, Grandpa Yi, leave it to me. He also learned from Tuo that the atmosphere in the clan was not right. He knew that Shisui seemed to be doing something big for the family. Now he was very happy to help Shisui. Seeing Jin Huo like this, Sima Yi couldn't help but sigh. It's good to be young. On the other side, Hui had just entered the interior, and the owner of the bun shop ran to him respectfully and presented him with delicious meat buns. My lord, look, these are specially made for you this morning." Hui hadn't eaten breakfast yet, so he took the paper bag. He glanced at the somewhat flattering bun shop owner with a cold face and said bluntly, "You should restrain yourself, it's easy to lose your appetite." After saying that, he stuffed the money into the other party without paying attention to his expression, and then he was about to leave. "No, my lord, please stay, my lord, please stay." Unexpectedly, the other party's face turned pale in an instant, and he hurriedly stopped Hui with a crying voice. "What are you doing? Didn't I give you the money?" The owner of the bun shop said with a panic expression, "Sir, you just eat a few buns, how can I take your money? I was really short-sighted that day." As he spoke, his body trembled constantly, and his hands were still touching his chest, as if he wanted to take something, but he was too nervous to succeed, and he was anxious to kneel down immediately. Hui's face changed, and he realized something was wrong. Fortunately, he was quick to stop him. Then he subconsciously looked around, and the eyes of the surrounding villagers had indeed been attracted by them. "Who is this? There is a family emblem on it. Is it an Uchiha? You actually bought buns without paying. It's too much." "Keep your voice down. Didn't you see so many people were arrested yesterday? Be careful not to catch you too." "What are you afraid of? It's not the police department." "Another one who stole the buns? Should we find someone from the police department?" Everyone discussed in a low voice, watching the two people pointing and talking, while the owner of the bun shop didn't care about anything else and just anxiously pulled at his cotton coat. "Keep it. If we don't accept them, we won't be able to sleep in the future." Hui then remembered what Sima Yi said before he left, and immediately understood the meaning of his words. Seeing that the other party's face was full of anxiety, he had to pat the other party's shoulder and said loudly, "Okay, I'll take the buns. Forget it this time. If it happens again, I'll eat up your stall." After that, Hui picked up the banknotes he had just left and walked away under the gaze of the crowd of onlookers. "Oh, thank you very much, uncle." "Take care, uncle, come often." Seeing that Hui accepted the buns, the meaning of the words seemed to forgive him. The boss finally breathed a sigh of relief, wiped the sweat off his face, touched his chest again, and found that the money was still there, and he felt better immediately. Seeing that the surrounding villagers were still looking at him with curious eyes, he snorted and regained his composure and shouted, "What are you looking at? It's none of your business, really." Leaving the street, Hui quickly came to the police department. Since Shisui took the police department to a remote place for training, only a few Uchiha were left to guard here, and 4 captains took turns to stay in the lobby of the police department to prevent emergencies. So at this moment, in the huge main hall of the police department, only Uchiha Yangs, a former member of the police department, sat expressionlessly, and the rest were non-staff members who took over the task. "Sister Yangs, I brought breakfast. Do you want to try it? It's free." Hui came forward and sat next to Yangs, shaking the bag in his hand and said with a smile, "No need, I've had breakfast, and you don't seem to have washed up. It's a bit smelly, stay a little away from me. Also, you are late, I will record it truthfully." Yangs fanned with a look of disgust, raised his hand and wrote down Hui's name. "You guy, just go." Hui's mouth twitched, and he walked aside in a bad mood. Although he was disgusted, he had no choice. Putting aside Uchiha Mikoto, Yangs is the most powerful, prestigious and talented woman in the Uchiha clan. He is no match for her. Hui walked aside and ate his buns. Just after a few bites, he saw a non-staff member running to Yangs from outside and saying something. "Uchiha." Hui glanced at him and didn't bother to pay attention. Unexpectedly, Yangs suddenly shouted his name loudly. "What? Even if you want to eat now, I won't give it to you. Come here." Yangs called Hui over with a gloomy face, then looked at another person and said, "Say it again." The man looked at the bun in Hui's hand with a strange expression and repeated, "Just now, Captain May received a report while patrolling that someone ate buns without paying, and when we got there, the person had already left. We searched the streets and still couldn't find anyone. The captain asked me to ask if we should intensify the search with other teams." Facing the strange gazes of the two, Hui's face changed, looked at the bun in his hand and subconsciously explained, "It's not me, I don't have it, I gave it to him, but he didn't want it." Yangs looked at Hua's face with a strong disgust, but did not continue to ask, but replied to the man, "Each team only needs to be responsible for their own streets, and I will coordinate with other teams to search. You must patrol carefully." Today is the first day of the police department's training outside. Lord Shisui has explained that no one who is lucky enough to destroy the stability of Konoha. Yes. After the man left, Hu wanted to continue explaining but was interrupted by Yangs. "I know it's not you. No need to explain." Yangs believed that this was either a misunderstanding or someone else was responsible. If even the police department was so reckless, the entire Konoha would have been in a mess. Hu had a lot to say but it got stuck in his throat. He could only leave with a look of surprise and a groan. This guy is unexpectedly quite reasonable. Chapter 84 Daxing Prison. Damn it. Today is our first day of duty under Lord Shisui after returning to Konoha, and we can't even catch a thief who stole steamed buns. Search. Expand the search area and continue. On the street, Koizumi Satsuki led his men to chase the thief from the street to the end of the alley, but still failed to catch the thief who stole the steamed buns. He couldn't help but get angry. "Captain, we have searched the streets we are responsible for. The person should have run to other places. The most urgent thing is to continue patrolling and follow Lord Shisui's instructions." Seeing that Koizumi Satsuki was a little bit excited, several people around him hurriedly dissuaded him. They haven't caught a single offender so far, which should be a good thing, but today is their first day of duty. How can they not have business? Upon hearing this, Koizumi Mayu frowned and thought hard. After a moment, he nodded heavily. "That's right, for the stability of Konoha and to live up to the trust of Lord Shisui, we must patrol strictly and never let go of any illegal villagers." Yes, everyone nodded in unison, divided into teams and dispersed again. Koizumi Mayu's eyes flashed with brilliance. In front of these eyes, no illegal villagers will be let go. Koizumi Mayu thought so, and just turned around and saw a peddler's cart cross the line by an inch. He immediately stepped forward and pointed at the line and said, "What are you doing? Don't you know that street vendors cannot cross the line?" The peddler was stunned by the shouting, and when he reacted, he quickly looked down and saw that the car body only crossed slightly. Not to mention this degree, even if the wheels crossed halfway, the police department would have ignored it. The peddler looked disdainful and retorted, "It's not a big deal. Why are you shouting so loudly?" Shouting? Koizumi Mayu's eyes widened. He thought the other party would honestly admit his mistakes and actively correct them, but he didn't expect that the other party would actually blame him. "I'm from the police department. Can't you see? You are breaking the law. You are destroying the stability of Konoha." Koizumi Mayu patted his clothes and was immediately furious. "I saw it. So what? I have always set up my stall like this, using chicken feathers as a token of authority. No one from Uchiha has ever said anything to me before. You don't even have the Uchiha clan emblem. What can you do to me?" the vendor said with a look of disdain. Not only did he not move the car backwards, but he pushed it to the side of the line. Several stall owners around him covered their mouths and laughed secretly, pointing and talking. "You are really meddling in other people's business. It's embarrassing. No one from Uchiha has ever asked us to do this." "Why is he so serious?" "That's right. Be careful. We will report him." Koizumi Mayu's body trembled slightly, his face flushed, and he glanced at several stall owners and found that their products also crossed the line. He immediately laughed in anger. Okay, since you don't want to repent, don't blame me for not giving you a chance." After saying that, he turned around and left. "You scared me. I thought you were going to do something. I didn't expect you to leave like this. You are worse than the Uchiha people." The vendors laughed and mocked, and the onlookers nodded in support. However, after a moment, Koizumi Satsuki came back again, and behind him were 8 ninjas in uniform. He waved his hand and said without a word, "I have warned you, but you insisted on not changing. Now I will take you all away according to the law." As soon as the voice fell, both the vendors and the onlookers were shocked. "Do you have to arrest people for such a small matter? What are you going to do?" "We just accidentally crossed the line," The Uchiha people have never arrested us before. Why do you arrest us? You can't do this. Wait a minute. Let's talk it over. Can we move away now? The faces of the vendors and vendors who were pointed at changed. They didn't expect the other party to be serious. However, it was too late. The ninjas didn't care about the impact. After hearing the captain's order, they took them all down. Sima Yi snorted coldly. I gave you a chance. If you have anything to say, go in and talk. Although it was only the first time, he had already found that it was useless to reason with these people. It was still simple and effective to take action. Several people were arrested, the store was closed, and the cart was taken away directly. The onlookers watched the whole process in amazement, and they were still frightened. Why are they like this? Everyone looked at each other, and a sense of uneasiness suddenly surged in their hearts. This uneasiness came quickly and came true quickly. The ninjas who took on the patrol mission found many problems of the villagers in just one morning. Their kind reminders were met with impatient scolding and disdainful laughter from the people around them. Their good intentions were trampled on like this, and the people who made mistakes dared to be so rude. What do you mean that the Uchiha people have never taken care of them? This is what the Uchiha people taught them. What kind of warm law enforcement? It's simply unreasonable. A bunch of unruly people. They regard Konoha's laws as nothing, and regard the police department's members as trash. If that's the case, then arrest them. After enduring for different periods of time, the non-staff ninjas finally came to a consensus. If you don't use your power, it will expire. Setting up a stall across the line? Arrest. Having an argument? Arrest. Drinking and making trouble? Arrest. Cutting corners? Arrest. Defaming the police department? Arrest. Then, in just one day, the Uchiha prison was overcrowded. Yangs looked at these ninjas constantly sending in prisoners, and his face became uglier and uglier. No, if they keep arresting like this, the reputation of our police department will be ruined by them. Seeing that there were not enough cells, Yangs finally couldn't sit still anymore, and immediately stood up to find Shisui to report. Don't interfere. Unexpectedly, at this time, who was registering criminals on the side, suddenly stopped, handed the things in his hand to Yangs and said, Master Shisui has already instructed, I will handle this matter, you just register. You? Yangs was puzzled, but seeing Hu's confident look, he had to nod and didn't ask any more questions. Hu knew the reason, but this matter could not be told to other Uchiha. After giving instructions, he took the list to the prison and interrogated each one. Name: Fang Kun vendor. What did you do? My lord, I was caught when I crossed the line when setting up a stall. It's all a misunderstanding, sir. The people who came in would be much more honest after being locked up for half a day, and they would use honorifics when speaking. Crossing the line. It stands to reason that your problem requires the confiscation of the cart, 3 days of imprisonment and a fine of 5,000 taels. Hu flipped through the booklet and said slowly, What? The peddler was shocked. He didn't expect that the punishment would be so severe just because he set up his stall in the wrong place. He wailed, No, sir, I have an old mother and a wife to support at home, and my whole family depends on this business. Please have mercy on me. As he said this, he immediately knelt down and begged. Any of these 3 punishments could cost him half his life, and he must not be punished like this. Stop. Hu raised his hand to stop the other party, then sighed and said with an embarrassed look, Although Lord Shisui has always asked us to be lenient to others, the people who arrested you said that you had a very bad attitude at the time, which greatly affected the stability of Konoha and made it very difficult for me. The peddler's eyes turned and he immediately explained, No, I have always respected the Uchiha, because they don't have the Uchiha family emblem. I thought they were impersonating and fraudulent, so their attitude was bad. If I knew they were ninjas hired by the Uchiha, I would definitely cooperate honestly. Hu raised his eyebrows and was immediately happy. Really? Absolutely true. Well, then, let's forget it this time. You register and pay a fine of 500 taels to take the car away. Yes, thank you, sir. The peddler was overjoyed. He didn't expect that he only had to pay a small fine to leave after pleading. The Uchiha people were quite easy to deal with. Sir, can I ask one more question? When they reached the exit, The peddler following the guard suddenly turned around and said, "What's the matter? When will the Uchiha return to the police department?" Hua looked at the vendor in surprise, with a smile in his eyes. He pretended to think, and sighed after a moment, "Maybe. It will take some time." Chapter 85, Merchant Movements. "What's the matter? Any news from that guy?" "He hasn't come out yet. My people have been waiting outside for a whole day. He has been inside all the time and we can't contact him." "Damn it, why hasn't he contacted us after a day and a night? Is he really going to give up on us?" Inside the Konoha village, in a hidden alley, several fat businessmen gathered together and waited anxiously. "If he dares to give up on us, we might as well report it to the third generation or the three assistants. I don't believe he will get away with it." "Well said, he asked us to do this, and now that it's happened, he wants to use us to get rid of the disaster. How can it be so simple? We might as well take the initiative and hire ninjas to kill that guy." "That's right, no matter how powerful Uchiha is, he is just one person. Let's pay together to hire dozens of people. I don't believe his eyes can save his life." "Nonsense. If it's just him, it's fine. If there are Uchiha clans standing behind him, what can we use to fight them? Don't forget that we still have handles and our families in his hands." "Hey, how did we get into trouble with this evil star?" Speaking of the pain point, everyone sighed. There was only one person sitting in the upper seat, calm and relaxed, sipping tea slowly. "Mr. Kamimura, you are the salt merchant representative he appointed. Now the situation is so critical. What do you think?" "I see that Mr. Kamimura is so calm. Did he get some instructions?" "Why not? Haha, tell us too." "This person is Kamimura Yaisi, who took the initiative to propose to pay 30% of the income. Everyone is also a representative of various industries controlled by who. Now they are gathered together because of the police department's arrest of merchants yesterday. Why are you panicking?" "Judging from Lord Hua's recent plans, the entire Uchiha clan must be behind it. The Uchiha is the first wealthy family in Konoha, and it is not the Shimura clan. They will not abandon you and me so easily." The higher the position, the more they understand the value of the Uchiha, the first wealthy family in the ninja world. The reputation represented by it is enough to reassure many people, and they have been doing business for many years, and what they care most about is reputation. Hearing what Kamimura Yaisi said, several people had to sit down quietly, but this matter ultimately involved their lives and property, and even their entire family, so it was still difficult to remain calm. "Didn't I tell you? If I don't look for you, you don't need to contact me." After a while, without anyone noticing, there was suddenly another person in the room. Several people were shocked, and after seeing the face of the person, they immediately reacted and stood up. Master Hu is here. Please sit down." The person who came was Hu. He had just come out of the police department when he was sent by the men sent by several people. After that, he dressed up a little and used the clone technique and transformation technique to create a clone with a strange face. "Don't blame me, Master. After yesterday, we were really restless. We were afraid that we would accidentally do something wrong and affect your plan, so we took the risk of sending someone to contact." Seeing that Hua seemed a little angry, several people laughed and hurriedly explained. Hua knew how they felt, and did not pursue it anymore. He said directly, "Just cooperate with the recent actions of the police department. I will protect you and it will not affect you. You are still the pillars of Konoha's livelihood." Hearing the promise, everyone was relieved. "Thank you, sir. Your strategies are far beyond our reach. My admiration for you is like the water of Nan, flowing endlessly, without the worry of their lives." The few people immediately became active and began to flatter him. Yes, sir, with just a little effort, our income this month can be doubled, and you have completely shirked this responsibility. You are a business genius." "Double the income." Hui raised his eyebrows. He really didn't know about this, but it didn't matter. Anyway, he should not lose a penny of the protection fee. The spies who disturbed the people's livelihood in Konoha have been caught. Konoha's prices should also be restored. The time is 5 days later, within 7 days. As for the reason, you can discuss it yourselves. Restore prices? Several people were stunned, looking at each other, and hesitated for a moment. "What? Is it difficult?" Seeing several people hesitating, who felt a little strange. When they were asked to raise the price, they were very resistant. Now that the police department has cut down the knife, they are asked to restore the price and they look embarrassed. Is it so difficult anyway? Lowering prices is not something that can be done in a short time. Can you give me some more time? I will definitely follow the order of the adults. I will go and discuss with my colleagues. The price will be reduced in 5 days and restored to the original price within 2 days. Some people hesitated and wanted to discuss, but Kamimori Yazi agreed decisively. Hua looked at Kamimori Yazi and nodded with satisfaction. Ha ha ha, go ahead. Uchiha will not treat any friend unfairly. Kamimori Yazi was delighted and bowed and left. Mr. Kamimura? The remaining few people looked at each other, and they wanted to say something, but Hua saw that Kamimori Yazi had agreed, so he knew that others could do it. As for why he hesitated, he ignored it and directly released the clone and disappeared on the spot. What should we do now? Do we really need to restore prices so quickly? What else can we do? Do you want to go against the police department? Just listen to him. We've made a lot of money for nothing anyway. Now the profit is several times higher every day. Why not wait a few days and give him his share? I believe nothing will happen. Will this work? Will it delay his work? It's just a few days. What can it delay? That makes sense. On the other side, Hua's original body had just returned to Shisui's house and was discussing future matters with Shisui and Sima Yi. The moment the clone disappeared, a lot of information came in. What's wrong? Hua paused, and Shisui immediately noticed and asked hurriedly. The news from the clone is from those merchants. I have already notified them, but some people don't seem to be happy to restore prices. Hua relayed the conversations between the clone and those merchants one by one. Shisui was very surprised. Didn't they say they were always worried about being exposed? Not sure. They just said that lowering prices will take time. Maybe there is some difficulty. Shisui nodded slowly, but saw Sima Yi chuckled and said, a group of businessmen, just some short-sighted people who forget their principles for the sake of profit. It is normal to have such abnormal behavior. No need to worry too much. Grandpa, what does this mean? These people control sugar, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, coal and electricity. These industries are all related to the people's livelihood in Konoha. The profit of a single person may not be high, but hundreds of thousands of people in Konoha cannot do without them. Even if the price increases by only 1 cent, it is an astonishing profit. Every day of delay may mean an income of 100,000 taels. How can they give up easily? I see. Shisui nodded, suddenly realizing, so they are just a few guys who only care about money and not their lives. I will go and warn them tomorrow to prevent them from causing big trouble. Let them go. These people are short-sighted and greedy. If they don't do bad things today, they will do bad things sooner or later. It's rare to have someone like Kamimori Tsuyoshi stand out. What if? Sima Yi chuckled, his expression calm, but a cold flash in his eyes. Send someone to keep an eye on them, and collect more evidence on them in the next few days. If anyone misses the opportunity, it's just right to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. Chapter 86. Notorious. Here we go. In a large forest in the west of Konoha, a team of 4 was moving through the dense forest with a vigilant look. The surroundings were silent. They had passed through countless traps and blocked countless attacks and finally approached the destination of this trip. At this moment, they were already exhausted physically and mentally. However, at this moment, several special shurikens attacked from multiple tricky angles. The 4 people were on guard against each other and reacted the moment the shurikens flew out. They waved kunai and katana to knock down the shurikens one by one. The shuriken seemed to be a signal. The ground under the feet of the 4 people suddenly cracked, and dozens of sharp wooden thorns broke out of the ground. They had to be forced to separate, and then several thick tree stumps were hung on ropes and swung over. Almost in an instant, the 4 people were completely separated. Then, the sound of breaking air came from all directions, and figures came from nowhere. After counting carefully, there were more than 10 teams. They threw a large number of shurikens and kunai, and then raised katana to besiege the 4 people in the field. Damn it, why are there so many people here all of a sudden? The 4 people in the field were shocked. They had been completely separated and could not fight together at all. Damn it, It was almost there. Several people dodged shurikens while competing with the approaching enemies in physical skills. There were even people who were accidentally injured in the field. They were hit by their own shurikens and then turned into smoke with a bang. But soon, someone else came from a distance to join the battlefield. The 4 people had been killing all the way, and they were already at the end of their strength. Without the teamwork, they were quickly taken down one by one and stopped before the finish line. When the last person was also pinned to the ground, a shout came from the air. "That's it. I declare the 7th team a failure." Shisui fell from the tree and announced the failure of this trial with a smile. He was also shocked in his heart. He thought that banning Sharingan and ninjutsu, setting up a lot of traps, and harassing with the shadow clones of other tribesmen could easily stop them. But he didn't expect that the other party almost reached the finish line. Ahaha, what a pity. We were almost there. Didn't someone just say that we could pass it easily? Who was it? Unlike the regrets of the 4 people in the field, everyone around them laughed with their heads raised. In order to prevent them from succeeding, almost everyone was so eager that they almost took up their own swords at the last moment. Fortunately, they successfully stopped the 4 people at the finish line. Damn it, didn't we beat you many times? Why can you still reunite, and come so quickly? In order to be fair, the real bodies of the people responsible for blocking have been standing on the periphery of the forest. After the shadow clones were beaten, they had to chase again from the periphery. Hahaha, this is all thanks to me. I used the clone technique and the transformation technique together. You thought you beat every team, but in fact, except for the first time, the other times were all the 3 teams pretending to be us. Hua crossed his arms and stood out arrogantly. This action caused the 4 people to curse. Damn, despicable guys. Let's see how you 4 will live in the future. Hua snorted coldly, quite disdainful. In fact, he was already panicking and glanced at Shisui. Shisui could only smile in return, and then looked away. The time is not up yet, just bear with it. This special training has no special effect except strengthening the team's cooperation and physical skills. If there is a characteristic, there is only one word: difficult. So, the 5th day. Uncle Yi, this is the information sent recently. You can take a look first. If there is anything, let Jin Huo come to the police department to find me. It's my turn to be on duty today. I have to leave first, otherwise that woman will call my name again. At Shisui's house, Hua delivered the information and turned to leave, muttering, "Who came up with this training method? These people are too cruel. It hurts me to death." Seeing Hua limping, Sima Yi couldn't help but smile, and then he opened the information and read it carefully. The villagers are almost ready, and the ordinary tribesmen have also finished the arrangements. We can proceed to the next step. Sima Yi thought for a moment and called Jin Huo to order. Take them with you to recruit workers in the tribe. Finalize the plan today. Go to the street to purchase materials early tomorrow morning, and start construction in the afternoon. It doesn't matter what you do, the key is to keep them busy and have food to eat. Jin Huo scratched his head, not quite understanding, but nodded and wrote it all down. Go ahead and do it. I'll find someone to help you. Yes, don't run around. If you don't listen, I'll let the police department arrest you. As soon as he walked into the inner street, Hui heard a roar, and when he turned his head, he saw a woman holding a child's ear and educating him. I haven't been here for a few days. Is the police department so scary now? Except for the day he was on duty, he had to follow the training during the day and rush to the police department to interrogate the people in the prison at night. He had no time to pay attention to the villagers' reactions. Hua looked around with a strange expression, and saw that the street was clean and odorless, and the stalls on both sides were neatly arranged without any offside. Occasionally, 2 people bumped into each other on the street, and they bowed and apologized to each other, and then quickly separated. Even the stall owners and hawkers replaced the scales in their shops with new ones. Everything was so harmonious and beautiful, except for a little bit of depression. Sir, when will the Uchiha come back? Hua was walking on the street. The owner of the bun shop in the distance was shouting quietly. When he saw him coming, he hurried over and pulled carefully. Uchiha. Hua looked around and shook his head and said, "Isn't this good? Look, even the children are obedient." "Oh, sir, we can't do without Uchiha." These people are not as good as Uchiha. We all hope that Uchiha will return to the police department. Yes, yes. The stall owners around heard the noise and saw the clan emblem on Hua's body and came over. Hua felt very surprised. He didn't expect that in just a few days, Uchiha became the popular choice. What are you doing? You are not allowed to gather on the street during the morning market. You are blocking traffic and affecting others. Disperse immediately. Hua was about to open his mouth, but saw a man from the police department coming from a distance. He pointed at everyone and shouted impatiently. Everyone's face changed and they quickly dispersed. Hua was also pulled aside by the bun shop owner. He said with a bitter face, "Sir, you see, these people are too much. You should come back quickly. Konoha can't do without you." Hua raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, "You don't seem to have been arrested before. Why do you exclude others?" He was the one who released the people, and he remembered who was in and who was not. Except for the most serious crimes, other minor crimes were lifted up and gently let go in order to show kindness. Moreover, there is this rule in the teachings of Uchiha, and people are just doing things according to the rules. The boss of the bun shop couldn't help but sneer when he heard this. "I'm an honest man. Of course I didn't go to jail, but my son went to jail, and he just came back yesterday. Fortunately, he was only fined. But my son is also an honest man. He just accidentally cursed the police department." He was a little excited at the time. It was really careless. Accidentally cursed? Yes, yes, yes. The boss of the bun shop nodded quickly, and his serious look made Hua speechless. Soon, in the next 2 days, leaving a little hope, Hua left decisively. As for the reason why the other party's son cursed the police department, he was not interested in knowing. Anyway, the person was out. Chapter 87 Disaster from the Sky. Master Shisui has decided to build a house there. Have you signed up? Yes. I waited in line for an entire afternoon. Having a job will make my family feel more relaxed. That's great. Master Shisui still cares about us. That's to say, that Danzo and Koharu Uchiha are really bad. Master Shisui, such a good person, was turned away when he visited them. How can he act like an elder? That's right, damn it. They have no asshole when they give birth to a son. Elder Danzo doesn't seem to have a son. Then he deserves to be childless. After finishing today's training, Shisui walked in the clan land, ready to follow Sima Yi's advice to go to the wasteland in the west. Along the way, he heard the discussions of the clan members. He carefully avoided the clan members and secretly eavesdropped on their conversations. He felt a little embarrassed when he heard the clan members slandering Danzo. But it seems that they really didn't talk about the interesting things about Danzo's assistant when he was young. Could it be? Shisui couldn't help but think divergently, then shook his head repeatedly, his face slightly red. "Sorry. I didn't mean it." Shaking his head and getting rid of the strange thoughts in his mind, Shisui hurried to the western part of the tribe, which had been separated by wooden boards. "Ichi, why are you here?" Outside the area, Ichi had just put down a pile of wooden boards. Hearing Shisui's voice, he subconsciously turned around and looked. "Brother Shisui." Ichi's face lit up and he ran straight over. "Long time no see. How is the police department going?" Ichi raised his head, and his rosy cheeks were still stained with a little dust. Shisui smiled and leaned over to wipe the dirt off Ichi's face. "The police department is going well, but why are you here?" "Yesterday I was practicing outside and met Brother Jin Hua. When he mentioned this, I also wanted to help a group of tribesmen, so I came here." Ichi's expression was very serious. Shisui smiled gently after hearing it, touched his head and explained, "These houses are indeed built for those tribesmen, but building them too early will not help too many people." Ichi tilted his head, thought for a moment, and shook his head slowly. "Wouldn't it be better if it was built faster?" Shisui had also asked Sima Yi this question. He wanted to be a teacher and explain it to Ichi in detail, but unfortunately, time was limited and he had to go to the Hokage building later, so he had to reply, "This question is more complicated. I will teach you slowly next time." After he finished speaking, he gently stroked the back of Ichi's head and whispered, "However, if you want to help the clan members, you can stay here for me tomorrow to prevent them from getting hurt while working." "Well, I'll do my best." "Also, it's getting cold. And it seems like it's going to snow again. Remember to put on more clothes. Well, Shisui, how is the situation over there now? Are you sure? In the Hokage building, the third generation sat at the desk, looking a little tired, and his voice was a little hoarse. As time went on, the three assistants became more and more dissatisfied with the current situation of the police department. The frequent transfers of the Anbu and the strange behavior of the Uchiha made them begin to doubt. Some ninja clans in the village also began to move. It can't be hidden for much longer. I have almost convinced the police department. There are still the elders and some members of the clan left. As long as I can convince them, I can basically force Chief Fugaku to resign. Those elders. The Sandai frowned, hesitant to speak. Your chief elder has always been tough, and this time he agreed to the coup. Are you sure you can convince him? Shisui looked up, his expression very confident, and replied, although the chief elder is tough, he just wants to fight for the interests of Uchiha. As long as he understands the harm of the coup to Konoha and Uchiha, he should give up. The Sandai shook his head, smoking a dry pipe, and said nothing. If Konoha retreats appropriately and lets the elders see Konoha's sincerity, the chances of success will be greater. Seeing the silence of the Sandai, Shisui added. Hearing this, the Sandaime reluctantly nodded his head in agreement with Shisui's statement, and then suddenly asked, I heard that your clan members have been talking about you being rejected by Danzo and Koharu recently. Shisui was puzzled, and after thinking for a moment, he seemed to remember something, and hurriedly lowered his head and replied, I'm sorry to have wasted your time because of such a small matter. I will explain to the clan members. No, they are right. A junior came to visit, and they actually rejected you so casually. How can they act like elders, and how can they take the will of fire in their hearts? The Sandaime became more and more angry as he spoke, as if he had seen a huge scandal. He immediately stood up and called to Anbu and ordered, the behavior of Koharu Utatane and Danzo Shimura is against the will of fire. Immediately remove all their duties and let them stay in the clan to reflect on themselves. Huh? Shisui looked up, confused. Just because he was rejected, he had to remove 2 assistants from their duties and throw them to the clan to reflect on themselves. When did he become so important? Sir Sandai, you don't have to beg for mercy. Where the leaves of Konoha flutter, the fire will continue. The flames will continue to illuminate the village and allow new leaves to sprout. This is the will of fire, the foundation of Konoha's existence. Their behavior has violated my bottom line. I will punish them until they realize their mistakes. Sandai's eyes were stern, but his old face was quite imposing. Shisui was moved, lowered his head and said in a deep voice, Sir Sandai, I will definitely protect Konoha and will never let anyone hurt the village. Please, Shisui. Grandpa, is Sandai doing this to show goodwill to the elders of the clan? After returning home, Shisui told Sima Yi about Sandai's reaction without a moment's pause. Sima Yi thought for a moment and replied, it should be more than that. The so-called will of fire can be big or small. I guess the coup d'etat is about to get out of control. In order to prevent Danzo and his men from knowing about it, they found an excuse to separate them. I see. If Danzo knew about it, things would indeed become more complicated. I think the third Hokage seems a little impatient. Should we speed up? No hurry, it will be time to reap the rewards in 2 days. Sima Yi shook his head. There was no big fluctuation. Everything was going on in an orderly manner under his control. By the way, who has sent some interesting information today? You should also go to the prison after the training tomorrow. If nothing goes wrong, you may find something interesting. Sima Yi looked at Shisui, hinting at something. Shisui pursed his lips, feeling uneasy. Every time Sima Yi said this, something would happen that he could not accept. I know, Grandpa. At the same time, in the Shimura clan, this is a picture drawn by I. It makes me laugh to death. Why on earth is this happening? Monkey, how could you do this? A disaster may come from the sky when one is sitting at home. Danzo was rebuilding the root organization with great enthusiasm. He had just called back all the personnel, and moved all the facilities and documents of the base. The goods accumulated before could also be sent to Orochimaru for further experiments. At this time, a document came from the Anbu. His position as assistant was removed. The route was disbanded again. and even the funds were taken away. He himself was taken to the Shimura clan's territory by the Anbu and was almost imprisoned. The reason was actually the will of fire. Monkey, you will regret it. Similarly, Uchiha Koharu was also taken back to the Uchiha clan's territory from the ninja hospital. Compared to Danzo's ignorance of the outside world, she had been paying attention to the news outside during this period and vaguely guessed something. Akaya. Chapter 88, Konoha's Blue Beast goes to jail. Why is the price of this candy still so high? Didn't the enemy spy who hoarded goods and disturbed Konoha have been caught? Who knows? Maybe the goods haven't arrived yet. The ninjas at home can't do without sugar water when practicing physical skills every day. You have to buy it even if it's expensive. Health is more important. That's right, the passionate youth can't do without sugar water. In the evening, on the streets of Konoha, several people stood in front of a store. They were either ninjas or ninjas' families. They looked at the price of sugar and sighed. At this moment, a roar full of youth and passion suddenly came from a distance, and people on the street turned around. I saw a young ninja in a green tights, running upside down with his hands, so fast that it was enough to raise clouds of smoke. When he got closer, everyone could see his face clearly. He had a kappa head, exaggerated thick eyebrows, and a resolute face. At this moment, he was sweating profusely. Who is this? Good question. I'm Konoha's Blue Beast, Might Guy. Might Guy rolled 3.5 times and landed accurately, revealing his signature wide teeth and introducing himself. Who asked you? Everyone's mouth twitched, and they tapped their toes in embarrassment as they quickly paid the money, took the icing sugar and quickly dispersed. Thank you for understanding. It's Konoha's Blue Beast, Might Guy. Might Guy just grinned at everyone's performance, and after everyone dispersed, he stepped forward and said, 2 packs of icing sugar, thank you. The clerk had long been stunned by Might Guy's operation, and subconsciously took the money and took out 2 packs of icing sugar and was about to hand it over. This is the one. Surround it. At this moment, something unexpected happened. 7 or 8 people from the police department, led by Sima Yi, suddenly broke in, and Might Guy was also squeezed aside. By the time he reacted, the eaves and the front and back of the store had been tightly blocked. Everyone, don't move. Hold your head and squat down. All the police officers were ninjas, wearing Konoha forehead protectors. The store employees were just ordinary people. They were so scared by the scene that they lay on the ground and dared not resist. What are you doing? I've already paid. Can you give me the candy? Might Guy shook his head and asked with a strange look on his face. Everyone was shocked and turned around to look at the boy with a pot-cut hair. A man walked out of the police department. He squinted his eyes and looked at Might Guy for a moment. Then his eyes lit up and he pulled Might Guy, pointed in the direction he came from and asked, just now, someone ran over there upside down. Do you know who it was? Might Guy's eyes widened when he mentioned this, and he immediately performed a backflip, and even supported himself on the ground with one hand and gave a thumbs up to everyone. Yes, it's me, Konoha's Blue Beast, Might Guy. Today's training is to walk around Konoha upside down for 20 times. If you don't finish, you have to do frog jumps for 30 times. How about it? Do you feel the passion of youth? Do you want to join us? The man looked at Might Guy with a strange expression and shook his head. No, just admit it, then come with us. Eh? Go. Where? Might Guy was absent-minded, banging his head on the ground, staring at the few people blankly. To prison. Prison? Prison? Why? Why? Might Guy opened his mouth wide, his voice trembling. It's very dangerous for you to walk upside down, and you run so fast. The streets are full of smoke and dust because of you, which affects everyone, the police said, pointing to the dust that had not yet settled on the street. Might Guy was full of black lines, and he knelt down to the side almost petrified, with tears flowing like noodles. I'm going to jail. My youth is over. It's over. Woo-oo. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm a bad boy. Everyone's face changed. Might Guy's crying was very loud, and people on the whole street were attracted. They gathered outside the store and looked in curiously. What are you doing? Give him the things and comfort him quickly. The real owner hasn't been caught yet. Everyone was startled by the crying. Sima Yi was even more troubled by the crying. He threw 2 bags of icing sugar on the table. He thought he was a mature teenager, but he didn't expect his emotions to be so unstable. Hearing this, the man had to whisper to comfort him, "Don't cry, don't cry, it's not over, your youth is still passionate. The police department is just for the safety of you and the villagers. Let's do this." You take the note to report to the police department. As long as you admit your mistakes, you are still a good boy. Might Guy looked at the note, tears in his eyes. Is my youth not over yet? No, no, go, burn your youth. Facing the gazes of everyone, his old face blushed and he gritted his teeth to respond. Is that so? My youth is back. Might Guy was delighted, and then he jumped up with the note and icing sugar. Then he gave everyone a thumbs up, showing his big white teeth that shone with dazzling brilliance, and shouted, "I will jump to the police department to report now. If I can't do it, I will stand on one hand." After that, he jumped out of the store in the frog jump posture and headed towards the police department. He won't run away with the note. If he runs away, don't worry about him. We have just confirmed that the real owner entered the store in the afternoon and has not come out yet. Let's rush in. Koizumi Mayu's eyes were cold. This was an order directly issued by the police department. There was a major criminal who endangered Konoha inside. Everyone showed their weapons, watched each other and groped forward. After confirming that there was no trap, he kicked the door open, and several figures rushed in together, and then found a secret room inside. After opening the secret room, several people rushed in one after another. Police department? Damn, what are you doing? I know them. After a roar, the sound of iron colliding soon came from inside, but it only stopped for a moment with a whimper. A moment later, Koizumi Mayu came out with a fat man with a sullen face. The fat man had his limbs broken and his mouth was stuffed with pain and he fainted. Behind Koizumi Mayu, the others pulled 3 people dressed as samurai out of the secret room. Everyone's face was very ugly, looking at each other, hesitant to speak. Seal off the store, take all the people in the store back to the police department. You guys stay here, don't let anyone get close. Yes. After Koizumi Mayu gave an order, he immediately took the fat man and led everyone back to the police department. He finally understood why he was asked to lead a team here to perform the mission even though the street was not under his jurisdiction. This matter seemed to be much more troublesome than they thought. When they arrived at the police department, they saw Hua sitting in the hall with his legs crossed and waiting here for a long time. Master Hua Koizumi Satsuki opened his mouth, wanting to report everything he had just seen, but Hua raised his hand to stop him, and simply ordered calmly, "Throw him in prison. Master Shisui will come to deal with this matter later." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89. Handle it according to the rules. It couldn't be better if Master Shisui helps. Hearing Shisui's words, Koizumi Mayu heaved a sigh of relief, and felt his back straightened a lot. You go to the store first and guard it. Bring the people in at night. Don't cause panic. After the interrogation tonight, confirm their identities tomorrow and send them back. Yes. Well, I've mopped the floor 3 times, painted the walls 5 times, and cleaned the cells 4 times. Is there anything else you want me to do? While the two were talking, a boy with a pot-cut haircut suddenly jumped out. He held a mop on his head, a brush hung under one foot, and a broom in one hand, and jumped over. You don't have to clean so many times. Forget it. You can go now. Hua's mouth twitched. Seeing his appearance, he really didn't want to say anything more. Really? Ha ha ha. Konoha's blue beast is finally back. Youth, make up for today's 30 laps of handstand walking. I think I saw Senior Kai on the road just now. It's great. A man like the scorching sun. It seems that winter is not so cold next to him. After seeing the two off, Hua sat in the hall for a while, and Shisui came over soon. Senior Kai. Hearing Shisui's words, Hua was a little shocked, and his mind kept recalling the man's appearance. Huh? Brother Hua, don't you know? Senior Kai was in the same class as Obito and Kakashi, and his father was Senior Midai who defeated the 7 mist ninjas single-handedly. What? Hua's eyes widened, staring at Shisui in disbelief. Seeing Shisui's serious expression, he had to accept the reality. Such a guy could actually be the son of Senior Dai. How could it be? Shisui pondered. Although he was not familiar with Might Dai, it was hard to forget such a unique person even if he just saw him from a distance. After comparing Might Dai and Might Guy in his mind, Shisui came to the conclusion, they look alike, almost identical. No way. Is that Dai Senior also like this? Yeah, he's pretty good. If that's the case, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to invite that guy to the police department. I'm afraid everyone won't be used to it. The two chatted and came to the prison. Hui handed the registration book to Shisui and then went to the cell alone to bring the fat man who had just been captured. Why are you beaten like this? Your mouth is blocked too? The fat man looked miserable. His limbs were removed and his mouth was stuffed with rags. He had woken up at this moment and cried after seeing Hui. I'll help him connect them. The next step was to interrogate him. The two were not afraid that he would escape. So Hui started to restore his limbs and pulled off the rags. Sir, save me. Sir, I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I will immediately lower the price with my colleagues. Sir, I really know I was wrong. As soon as he recovered, the fat man begged with a terrified face. Shisui looked at Hui curiously, but Hui understood what he meant, but ignored him. Instead, he sat down next to Shisui and picked up the booklet in a business-like manner. Name. Sir, it's me. I'm Feely, the representative of the sugar merchant. Your loyal subordinate. Hui raised his eyebrows and said in a low voice, answer whatever I ask you. If you keep talking nonsense, I will sentence you to death. Yes, I dare not. For these ordinary villagers, the power of the police department is unimaginable. With the ability to directly sentence, Hui can make him lose his head with just a move of the pen and paper in his hand. Shisui did not interrupt, but just sat aside and watched quietly. Age, 42. How many people are there in your family? Are they in the village? I have an 80-year-old mother, a wife, 5 daughters and a son. They are all in my hometown, Toshodo. Only the 3 little princesses and the eldest son are with me in Konoha. How come I remember your mother is only 60 years old? If you dare to talk nonsense again, watch out for your head. Yes, I remembered it wrong. She should be 60. Doyley's face changed, and he nodded repeatedly. Okay, now let's talk about business. Do you know why several sugar merchants didn't lower the price honestly, but I only arrested you? Doyley lowered his head, and his body couldn't stop shaking. Tell the truth. Don't think about involving me. Considering the past relationship, I can still save your family's life. If it's too late, I'm afraid your whole family will disappear. Hui already knew the details of the man in front of him, and his words were very cold. Yes, Doihei looked up at the two Uchiha, knowing that even if he didn't say anything, he would be tortured by them, so he had to accept his fate and tell the reasons one by one. Child trafficking. Shisui stood up and stared at Doihei in anger. He thought it was just a small matter of hoarding goods, but he didn't expect that there would be such a dirty deal. Tell me, who is the buyer? No, I don't know. They wear masks every time they trade. I only know that they should be ninjas. I also sent samurai to follow them. But when I woke up the next day, I found that the heads of my men were hung on the head of my bed. Since then, I dare not ask again. Doihei shook his head repeatedly. His expression was very terrified. Shisui couldn't hold back, and directly pulled the other party into the illusion, and quickly understood the whole story. Hui sat aside, and after Shisui had a reaction, he asked, "What do you mean? Did you see who it was?" Shisui's face was livid, and he replied in a low voice, "The root." Although the mask was wrong, the cold aura was enough to confirm that it was definitely the work of the root, who immediately stepped forward to help Doyley contact the illusion and asked, "How much did you sell?" "Some big and some small, from inside and outside the village, probably dozens of people, and I made about 8 million taels after deducting the share and the bribes." Doyley did not dare to hide it and told the truth. How to deal with it? Hui turned around and looked at Shisui. Shisui's face was gloomy, and he glanced at Doyley intently, and said word by word, "Deal with it according to the rules." "Understood." Hui nodded, then picked up Doyley, who was wailing like a pig being slaughtered, and threw him back to the prison. "Sir, spare my life. Sir, spare my life." Shisui ignored the other party's wailing and left the police department directly. He has another secret warehouse in the suburbs. The secret room on the street only has a few people who have just been captured. Most of them are in the secret warehouse. Let's go and rescue them first. After Hua came out after dealing with it, Shisui suggested. Hua looked at the sky and asked, "Should we call more people? The people from the route are not easy to deal with." "No need. The current situation is special. This matter cannot be made a big deal, otherwise it will easily involve more trouble. We can deal with it privately." Shisui gritted his teeth. Although he wanted to lead people to wipe out the route, he had to bear it for the sake of the overall situation. Hui glanced at Shisui's expression and suggested, "Then tell Uncle Yi." "Okay." Shisui sighed and nodded in response. He summoned his crow to pass the message back, and the two of them set off to the suburbs. The location of the secret warehouse is in the west of the Hokage rock. There are mountains and forests there. It is very remote and relatively hidden. Shisui quickly found the destination according to the picture in his memory. There is a hidden stone door, and there are 3 warriors inside. Shisui walked in front alone, and soon found the mechanism to open the door. As soon as the stone door opened, there was a cry of surprise from inside. "Why are you here now? You must have brought people here. Hurry up, or you will miss the time." A figure walked out of the darkness, holding an oil lamp and walking towards the door. The faint light outlined Shisui's thin figure in the dark night, and his blood-red eyes still shone brightly even in such darkness. Red eyes? Not good. Even ordinary people have heard of the legend of the Sharingan. Just a glance at each other made the visitor scream and feel that something was wrong. However, before he could take any action, he whimpered and covered his throat and fell to the ground. Blood gushed out of his throat, and in his dying moments, he saw a figure rushing over his body and into the secret room. Chapter 90 Moonlit Night Raid. Who is it? Ah! Shisui rushed in and killed the remaining 2 people one by one without any hesitation. He glanced around with cold eyes, and after confirming that there were no other enemies, he carefully opened the warehouse. Inside the warehouse was a group of ordinary people with their limbs bound, eyes covered, and mouths blocked, including 12 children and 5 adults. Hearing the noise, they all breathed rapidly and moved their bodies desperately in fear. They could not see the situation outside, but their body's instinctive reaction made Shisui very angry. "I checked around and didn't find the contact person." At this time, Hua came from behind and said in a low voice after seeing the situation inside, "Danzo was imprisoned in the clan territory by the 3rd Hokage yesterday. The root people should not come this time. Take them with you. Let's go back to the police department first. After verifying their identities, we will send them back tomorrow." "Okay, I'll go and confirm that the way here is safe." After that, Shisui nodded and walked forward carefully, whispering to comfort them, "I am an angel from the Konoha police department. You are safe now." Shisui first untied several adults. After hearing the other party's identity, they barely calmed down. After opening their eyes and seeing a Konoha forehead protector in the iconic Sharingan, they immediately understood the other party's identity. "Mr. Ninja." The 5 people breathed a sigh of relief and were about to say something, but Shisui signaled to untie the other children first. "You are safe now, but you have to hold the cloth in your mouth for now. Everyone keep quiet for the time being. I will take you back to the police department first and send you home tomorrow morning." In order to prevent everyone from making a noise, Shisui did not pull out the rags in their mouths. After a simple comfort and instructions, he took the lead and walked out. Although everyone was afraid, their identity as ninjas gave them some deterrence and a sense of security. They nodded obediently, supported each other to relieve the numbness and pain, and slowly followed behind Shisui. Shisui slowed down his pace, and after everyone stepped out of the stone gate, he casually placed a few detonating talismans, and then led everyone on the road. The moonlight was cold, and everyone was wearing thin clothes and soon shivered with cold. Shisui took off his coat and gave it to one of the little girls, but there were no extra clothes, so he could only comfort them. "Everyone, be patient. We will soon reach the police department. This place is only a few miles away from the police department." With the strength of Shisui and Hua, They can get there in a few minutes at full speed. But everyone is weak, most of them are children, and Shisui has to be distracted to be alert all around, so he can't help too much, so he can only slow down. Bang! Suddenly, Shisui's ears moved, and a crisp sound of iron collision came into his ears. His expression changed and he stopped, stopping everyone behind him. Then there was another muffled groan, and the violent collision of iron raised a cloud of dust. Shisui looked at the people behind him and saw that they did not move. After a moment, Hua retreated from the front. 3 people, with average strength and wearing masks, like people from the route, but a little strange. They left after a brief fight. Shisui shook his head, his eyes slightly focused. He had already sensed the other party's aura and was sure that they were not people from the route. While the 2 of them confirmed the information, the people behind them subconsciously huddled together, but Shisui and the other man ignored them because those people came back again. 4 people, one of them has a strange aura, be careful. Shisui looked into the depths of the darkness, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. 4? Hua paused, and the 3 Magatama had already been opened, staring at the surroundings cautiously. Here they come. When Shisui spoke to remind him, Hua was already ready. Several shurikens flew from 3 directions at the same time. Hua drew his sword and rushed in one direction, and Shisui also threw several shurikens. The shurikens collided with each other, splashing large sparks in the dark night, and then accurately intercepted the opponent's attack. Hua moved forward without hesitation. His movements were extremely fast. His long sword was swung around the arc of electricity, and he knocked down all the shuriken that attacked him, and then he quickly approached the enemy. Come and help. Seeing Hua rushing over, a ninja wearing a fox mask in the dark subconsciously shouted with a little timidity in his eyes. Seeing this, the ninjas from the other direction immediately attacked and formed a double team to besiege Uchiha Hua. Hua did not change his face, and his speed increased again. He was the first to contact the person in front of him. His Sharingan stared at the other's eyes firmly, forcing the other to keep his head down and dare not look at him. The 2 sides met with their blades, but after a few rounds, the opponent stabbed Hua in the abdomen with a knife. However, he was not happy at all, but instead showed fear in his eyes, and said in his heart, "It's over." Sure enough, there was a bang, and the Hua he hit turned into a wooden stake and stuck his blade, and the real Hua had already avoided the opponent's sight and came behind him in an instant. Turning the blade, Hua chopped down with the back of the blade and subdued him in an instant. At this time, another person had just arrived. Seeing that Hua had dealt with his teammates in a flash, he couldn't help but want to retreat. However, Hua suddenly turned around and smiled evilly. The 2 looked at each other, and the other cried out that it was not good. The next moment, he lost control of his body and stood there in a daze. All this was within Hua's expectations. He found that the 3 were mediocre in their first fight with the 3 men. They were just ordinary Chunin level. Returning to Shisui was just a precaution. He slashed with his sword and was about to deal with the second man directly. Only 1 prisoner was enough. Get out of the way. At this moment, Shisui suddenly spoke, and then a sound of breaking through the air came. Hua looked subconsciously and saw Shisui throwing a kunai at him, flying towards his neck at a very fast speed. The speed of all objects under the Sharingan was slowed down. Hua dodged sideways, and the kunai passed through his body and nailed him not far away. He turned around and saw a black venomous snake with its head nailed to the ground by the kunai, twisting its body and struggling unconsciously. Snake, Hua's forehead was covered with sweat. If it weren't for Shisui's reminder, the snake would have bitten him silently. A scream suddenly sounded, and the ninja controlled by Hua's illusion suddenly woke up, and then ran towards the depths of the dense forest without paying attention to anything else. Damn, who is it? Hua looked around, and the murderous aura rose. He escaped from the danger, and he couldn't help but be furious. He immediately raised his sword to chase and kill. At this time, several poisonous snakes shot towards him from the darkness like lightning. Hua was already prepared. The arc of electricity around the sword was sizzling. Everything under the Sharingan was clearly visible to him. The group of snakes were chopped into several sections before they got close. Suddenly, the wind sounded, rustling, and the surroundings were dark. The colorful scales reflected a faint cold light in the moonlight. They twisted their bodies and spread from all directions like a tide. Hisui's eyes twitched. He took a breath of cold air, and quickly retreated to Shisui's side. The terrifying scene made everyone behind Shisui, both adults and children, scream involuntarily, and they couldn't stop themselves even with cloth in their mouths. Shisui, however, had a calm expression and looked normal. He saw a figure deep in the jungle through the black curtain. Shisui, do you want to use ninjutsu? Too much noise would attract other people, so Hui had to ask. Shisui didn't reply immediately. He frowned and hesitated. After a moment, he sighed and said with a complicated expression, no, he's gone. Sure enough, after the snakes devoured the remaining two people, they slowly dispersed. Huh? Did you see who it was? Shisui looked at the people behind him and shook his head gently. Let's talk about it when we get back. Chapter 91 I only feel sorry for adults. The two set off. Shisui led everyone to the police department, while Hui went to a street shop to find Koizumi Satsuki and others. Today's operation is considered an extra task. Shisui will report it to you. Take these rewards and count them as wine money. Go and relax first. Koizumi Satsuki and others were feeling bored guarding the store, but Hui brought them good news. After they took the rewards, they immediately smiled. I didn't expect that this operation would be considered an extra task. After Hui finished speaking, he instructed Koizumi Satsuki and others, call a few people, and you will come with me to send the people to the police department under the cover of night. Yes, there were only 5 children in the secret room behind the store. The 5 people carried one on their backs and quickly returned to the police department in hiding. When they arrived at the police department, they saw that Shisui had asked people to buy some food and clothes and put everyone in an unused room. Master Shisui, do you have any other instructions? After sending the child to school, Koizumi Satsuki and others were about to leave. Before leaving, Shisui pulled him aside and told him, keep this a secret and don't let the villagers know, so as not to cause a riot. Don't worry, Master Shisui, I will tell them. Koizumi Satsuki knew that it was complicated, and nodded solemnly. Seeing this, Shisui took out a notebook from his arms and handed it to the other party. In his puzzled eyes, he explained, this is my experience in practicing swordsmanship. It is not a precious thing, but it is a token of my thoughts. No, this operation is within the scope of the mission. How can I accept gifts privately? Master has already shown me many favors. How can I be so greedy? Koizumi Satsuki's face changed. He stared at the notebook in Shisui's hand, his throat rolling, but he still refused sternly. For an ordinary ninja like him without blood, a simple and effective swordsmanship is more precious than ninjutsu, not to mention that this is Uchiha Shisui's experience in swordsmanship. If it is placed outside, it will be difficult to get a glimpse even if you spend 1,000,000 taels. Don't refuse. You have really helped the police department a lot. You may not know that if this matter is handled by the tribe members, many problems may arise. The tribe members have many character flaws and their status in the village is very embarrassing. Only with the help of other companions can it be eased. Shisui sighed and his eyes dimmed. Then he regained his spirits and looked directly at Koizumi Satsuki. He said sincerely, if the police department can recruit people from outside in the future, I hope you can help me. This is a recruitment from Uchiha. Koizumi Satsuki's heart beat fast and his mouth was dry. He took the notes with trembling hands and his brain was in a daze. He didn't expect that he, a small special ninja, could be recruited by Uchiha Shisui himself. He felt a surge of heroic spirit in his heart and wanted to bow down and repay him with his death. However, the only thing left to say was, if there is a need in the future, I will never refuse. Shisui smiled apologetically and said, you won't blame me for having ulterior motives, will you? How could that be? Master Shisui is also doing this for the family and the village. Although I have no such experience, I can understand your hardship. Koizumi Satsuki shook his head repeatedly while holding the notebook, and even looked at Shisui with some heartache. Although he was addressed as a master, the other party was less than half his age, just a child. Thank you for your understanding. I will ask you to work hard with me for the future of Uchiha. Yes. Shisui smiled shyly after sending Koizumi Satsuki away. After all, Koizumi Satsuki is a special jonin. Although he was promoted during the war, he was able to reach this level as an ordinary person, which is enough to show that his talent is not bad. With the background of Uchiha, it is not difficult to train him into a jonin with good strength, and he will have to win over and divide part of the power of the third generation in the future, so it is more appropriate to train such a ninja who comes from a commoner. For this little calculation, he could only apologize silently in his heart and make up for it in the future. Then, because they had to watch over these children and check the household registration of the villagers, the two stayed in the police department for a night, and sent people to send the children from the village back the next morning. As for the people outside the village, Shisui had to report to the Sandai. I will arrange for the Anbu to handle this matter. At such a critical moment, you should focus on the clan. In the Hokage building, the Sandai naturally agreed to Shisui's request. Shisui did not elaborate, and the Sandai did not ask. Both did not want to make a big deal at this time. Yes, Sandai, I will arrange for them to handle it in a low-key manner. Go, Shisui, the future of Konoha, I ask you to work together with me. Listening to the familiar words and looking at the serious expression of the Sandai, Shisui had to bow his head and leave as soon as possible. After he left, the Sandai sighed and looked at the dark clouds outside the window with a tired expression. Orochimaru, have you finally fallen into darkness? On the other side, after Shisui and Hui returned home, they quickly found Sima Yi and told him everything that happened last night. Lengjun, Orochimaru? When Hui heard this name, his expression paused. He had never met him before, and he didn't expect that the one who attacked them last night would be Orochimaru, one of the three ninjas. Shisui, are you sure you can beat Orochimaru? I heard that he is very powerful and very close to the root. Will it have any impact on our plan? Hui was a little worried. A person's reputation is like a tree's shadow. Although the Uchiha ninjas are arrogant, they still respect the strong. Shisui shook his head and replied, I don't have absolute confidence without fighting, but don't worry, the third generation should already know the inside story. Even if Orochimaru intervenes, the third generation will help stop him. The more Shisui got to this point, the more he admired Sima Yi's vision. Leaving a loyal impression on the third generation did save him a lot of trouble. Sima Yi frowned and thought deeply. He had collected some information about this person, but it was basically all about things before the fourth generation came to power. After the fourth generation came to power, Orochimaru almost disappeared, and he didn't know much about him. Since he has taken the initiative to give in, don't provoke him for the time being. Let's consider it after the dust settles in the clan. Sima Yi was also very curious. Capturing some children can be understood as training death squads. So what's the use of those adults? I know, Grandpa. Then I will take them to train first. Shisui sighed. Although he was unwilling, he had to give up. Well, today is the last day. You have to do a good job of finishing. Now that prices have gradually recovered, I will help you build momentum and lead it to the police department. Today and tomorrow are very important. You have to seize the opportunity. Yes. In the blink of an eye, Shisui has been training with the security department for 6 days. After almost being beaten to the finish line, Shisui deliberately controlled the progress of the clan members' training. Now is the last day, and today there must be a successful team to put a perfect end to this training. Don't worry, Uncle Yi. I have read The Art of War and have discussed countermeasures with several tribesmen. We will surely win this time. Chapter 92, Uchiha who knows military tactics. Everyone, be careful and move forward. We have already passed halfway. The frequency of their attacks is gradually decreasing. If I am not mistaken, they may also use the same strategy as we did last time, either mid-range attack or siege at the end. Everyone must not let down their guard. Once they are separated, we will completely fail in this trial. Understood. Another team has caught up. Now everyone listen to my command and quickly get rid of them. We will change direction. Yes. On the 7th day, near dusk, after the other dozen teams failed, the entire police department was left with only the last team led by Hui. He deliberately chose to be the last to go on stage. Dozens of pairs of eyes were staring at them in the dark, and everyone's mood was extremely complicated. They wanted them to succeed, but also hoped that they would fail. But no matter what they thought, They would never let them go. Outside the dense forest, on the cliff in the distance, Shisui and dozens of Uchiha were standing here looking into the distance. It was impossible to see the situation of the trial team with the naked eye here, but if the other party made a big move, they could still obtain some information. Huh? Suddenly, someone paused, looked puzzled and let out a light exclamation. What's wrong? Has something happened? Everyone looked sideways, and they all knew that this was a sign of the shadow clones being defeated. Our team was defeated. They seemed to have changed direction, and we lost our sight. As they spoke, several more people responded. Oh no, we've been discovered. They seem to be clearing out our shadow clones one by one. Everyone's face changed. The other party had already gone halfway. If they cleared out all their shadow clones at this time, not only would they need a long time to catch up, but they would also lose the other party's intelligence. Pick out another team to remove the shadow clones, and the three teams will gather together to catch up again. Since no one can use ninjutsu other than the Sharingan and the three-body technique, and the strength of the human body techniques here is not much different. With the damage that the shadow clones can withstand, even if all of their shadow clones go together, they can't take down a four-person team that is closely cooperating and in good condition. So they must use traps and shadow clones to continuously consume the opponent's physical strength, and then find the right time to fight. This requires them to know the opponent's position throughout the process, so they will deliberately disperse and hide in the dark, while monitoring, while finding the right time to consume the necessary energy. No need, we were defeated too. What happened? After defeating three teams in a short time, everyone looked very strange. You know, if it wasn't time to fight, their teams would be relatively scattered. But before the man could explain, everyone saw thick smoke suddenly rising from the dense forest in the distance, followed by a loud rumbling sound, and one tree after another fell down and raised a curtain of dust. They made too much noise and attracted us over, just like this. The man pointed at the thick smoke and explained, "It's bad, it's that despicable guy again." Everyone's face was very ugly. The shadow clones were independent individuals with independent thinking. They could not be controlled remotely, but based on their understanding of themselves, they would definitely go to check the information when the other party made such a big move. Sure enough, not long after the three teams set out, everyone received the memories of the shadow clones before they were defeated, including the three captains Yangs, Dohao, and Tuo. Everyone was surprised and quickly summoned new shadow clones, quickly confirm their position, and never let them approach the finish line in this state. If they don't consume enough, they won't be able to stop the other party at the finish line. Everyone reacted and quickly summoned the shadow clones to rush in the direction of the smoke screen. At the same time, in the opposite direction of the smoke screen, four people hid their bodies and quickly moved towards the finish line. This is the characteristic of the dense forest trial. There is more than one way to the finish line. If their position cannot be determined, even a net-casting interception cannot stop them. As time passed, the people on the cliff still did not get any effective information. At this time, someone finally reacted. The smoke screen must be fake. First, spread out people from the finish line to find it, and then fight with them after confirming the information. Everyone knew that if they consumed it like before, it would be too late, so they had to nod in agreement. Then the 8 teams summoned the shadow clones again and went straight to the finish line. They knew where there were traps and where it was safe. The speed of moving forward in the dense forest was much faster than that of the trial team, enough to get around to the finish line first. Shisui watched the two sides fight, looked up at the sky. It was already getting dark. The sky was dark, the wind was blowing, and small snowballs fell on his face. At the same time, the 4 people hiding in the forest slowly stopped. Hui thought for a while and remembered something. Then he smiled at them and said, "Let's turn around and see if anyone is chasing us. Kill them." After that, he led the 3 people back to the direction of the smoke screen. Sure enough, in just a moment, they encountered 3 teams of pursuers who were rushing on the road. Not good. What a coincidence. The 2 sides had different expressions when they met, but they didn't hesitate at all, and they went up with swords. 4 teams, 16 elite Uchiha ninjas. The moment they fought, Shuriken flew all over the sky. Even though they couldn't use the Sharingan, Their motion capture ability was still far superior to ordinary people. The figures moved in the dense forest, as fast as lightning. Hui swung the sword in his hand wantonly. If these people were here, he might not be able to retreat unscathed, but facing several shadow clones, he was like a god descending to earth. The four of them worked closely together, outnumbering the enemy, and in just a few moments, they wiped out all the enemies. However, the fierce battle between the two sides was too noisy, and soon attracted the other two teams. When Hui saw the people coming, he curled his lips slightly, and was delighted. That's it, it's best to go one team after another. The four of them looked at each other tacitly and rushed up. On the other side, on the cliff, the defeated people immediately shouted. They turned back again. I found the traces of them breaking the trap. Let's go together, someone else reminded, and then pointed in a direction. Draw two teams from the endpoint and chase them together. They couldn't command the clones at the endpoint, so they had to directly cancel the clones and start from the starting point. This time, let's make a big move and attract the endpoint to attack from the front and back. Yang's pretty face darkened. She didn't expect that the ugly guy could actually win, which made her a little unacceptable. At this moment, 7 teams, more than 20 people, rushed down the mountain together. This might be their last chance. If we cannot attract the people at the end to attack from the front and back before being eliminated by the other side, and win a chance, then the other side is likely to rush straight to the end. In the dense forest, Hui eliminated the last 2 teams and took the 3 people back to the path where the traps had been removed before. The 4 people advanced quickly and had already walked 80% of the way. Almost. This is it. Let's go here, split up, dismantle some traps in other directions, and then reunite to reset the traps along the way, and then we will continue to move forward. The 3 people understood and acted quickly, and moved forward together again after a while, until they came to a rocky place. Hui suddenly stopped and looked at the few people and ordered, hack each other, make enough noise, and attract the people around. The 3 nodded, immediately picked up the knife and started. Without any hesitation, after Hui's operation, the 3 people had already believed in his command. Looking at the actions of the 3 people, Hui couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The tribesmen are good in every way, but they are too rigid. The sound of the 2 sides hacking and the collision of iron tools was particularly harsh in this silent dense forest. In front of the 4 people, the clones who were searching in secret stopped and looked in this direction. One of them decisively turned into smoke and dissipated, conveying the information to the cliff. The sound of iron colliding. It seems that someone has discovered them and is fighting. This time it should be real. Let's go to reinforce. The 6 teams scattered around only hesitated for a moment before heading towards the source of the sound. Behind the 4 people, the other 7 teams had just arrived at the middle distance and followed the traces of the trap dismantling. Hui and his 4 companions were slashing at each other with long swords, stirring up smoke and dust to block their vision. But after a moment, they noticed the movement around them. The 4 of them looked at each other tacitly and rushed in one direction together. Oh no, we fell into the trap again. This despicable villain. How is he like Hokage? A team had just arrived at the periphery. Due to the smoke and dust, they could not see the situation clearly and did not realize that they had been discovered by the 4. When they sensed the approach of the 4, they had no way to avoid it and could not help cursing. 8 people fought, and there was no one to hold them back. In a one-on-one situation, they only lasted a few rounds before they were cut in half and turned into smoke and dissipated. Hearing the noise, other teams also came one after another. Hui was not afraid at all. He picked up his sword and went up. Everyone was fighting together. The scene gradually became chaotic and the noise became louder and louder. Soon, the remaining 5 teams all participated. Hold on. The others will soon come when they hear the noise. Everyone knew this truth, but they were restricted by the shadow clones and could not hold on just because they wanted to. Hui also knew that he could not delay too long, so he used all his strength when he started fighting. As the shadow clones disappeared one after another, the pressure on the 4 people became less and less, and the speed of destroying the enemy became faster and faster. At the same time, the pursuers behind began to move separately along the traces of the trap left by the 4 people, and did not find the 4 people until they reached the end. "Oh no, we fell into a trap. Go around to the end." They finally realized that something was wrong, shouted anxiously, and quickly pulled themselves out and stepped onto the safe area and marched towards the end. Near the end, nearly 20 people were quickly eliminated, and they did not wait for support from behind. When Hoa crossed the finish line, everyone on the cliff except Shisui had a grim look on their faces. This despicable villain. The traces of the trap were actually fake. Damn it. Yangs, Tuo, and Dohao couldn't stop their anger. Although it was just a training, they felt very unhappy that the opponent won in this way. The opponent had crossed the finish line before they could even use their full strength. If they were in person and could use the Sharingan, they would never be fooled by those little tricks. They wasted more time and energy on searching for the enemy. I declare that the 12th team has successfully passed the trial. Shisui jumped down and stepped on the branches and leaps to the finish line. When he landed, he applauded and celebrated. Everyone followed him and landed one after another, but their expressions when looking at Hu were very unfriendly. Hu awkwardly turned his eyes away, thought about it and decided to be more humble, so he scratched his head and smiled. It was luck. Haha, it was all luck. As soon as the voice fell, everyone's eyes became even more unfriendly, and their faces were as gloomy as water, staring at Uchiha without saying a word. Seeing this, Shisui suddenly said, "The art of war says, water flows according to the terrain, and soldiers win according to the enemy. Who can take the enemy by surprise, attack them when they are unprepared, and make them real when they are empty, and make them empty when they are real. How can we ignore his efforts and wisdom with just a mean sentence? If the police department can adapt to local conditions, how can it cause the villagers to hate it? Only by reflecting on ourselves and summarizing the gains and losses can we be the best. Blaming others is not the style of our Uchiha clan." Shisui's voice was not loud, but every word was heart-piercing. Some people bowed their heads in shame after understanding it, while some did not understand it but stopped talking. Yangs curled his lips. Although he was still a little unwilling, he thought carefully that others could do it but she couldn't. Didn't it prove that the other party was strong? Congratulations. After the congratulations, everyone realized that they were Uchiha, and they were not people who could not afford to lose, so they cheered and applauded, resounding throughout the area. "To celebrate the completion of our training, let's get drunk tonight," Shisui suggested with a smile, and after everyone cheered, he added, "Brother Hu, pay for the bill." "Huh?" Oh, a slight sound of doubt was drowned out by the roar of cheers, which were sincere and pure. Chapter 93 Villager Changes. Bazi selling buns, both meat and vegetarian. "Come and have a look, delicious and cheap." "Boss, why are your buns cheaper than yesterday?" "The noodles seller has lowered its price, the coal seller has also lowered its price, and the bun seller on the next street has also lowered its price. I have no choice but to lower my price. I'm an honest man." "Okay, give me 2 curries." "No, no, go next door." "No, no, why are you so angry?" The customer sighed and left muttering, but the boss of the bun shop cursed him for bad luck and what a heresy. While he was tidying up, he felt that there was another person in front of the shop. He immediately looked up and greeted him with a smile, but he saw that the person was actually wearing the uniform of the police department. His face changed instantly, and he forced a smile and asked weakly, "Sir, there should be nothing wrong with my place, right?" Tuo raised his eyebrows, looked around the store, and shook his head subconsciously. "No, it's normal. I'm just buying some buns for someone. Is there any difficulty?" "Buying buns for someone?" The boss stared at Tuo for a moment and looked at him carefully. He suddenly felt unfamiliar, so he asked tentatively, "Are you the Uchiha ninja master?" Tuo felt a little strange, turned around slowly, and showed the clan emblem. "Oh, it's really the Uchiha master. You are finally back. Come in. It's snowing outside. There are only a few buns. What do you say to buy? What do you want to eat? Just take it." The bun shop owner was excited, and opened a tray of cages in front of Tuo. The steaming buns were very tempting with fragrance. He said that he also called out to the surrounding shops and shouted loudly, "Come out and see, the Uchiha master is back." Tuo's expression changed, and he immediately felt something was wrong. He subconsciously looked at the eaves around. Unexpectedly, there was no one on the eaves, but the owners of the surrounding shops and the villagers passing by gathered around. "Oh, they are really Uchiha. Look at the family emblem. They are really theirs. They are finally back." "Sir, you are back to the police department, right? Those people should have left, right?" Someone looked around and asked in a low voice. Tyuo was confused. The last time he was surrounded like this was because he was scolded by the villagers for resolving a dispute. "We have completed the training and returned to the police department from today. Those ninjas have completed their missions and disbanded." Everyone was very happy to hear this and shouted, "Great, the Uchiha people are finally back. It's because you arrested those profiteers that our lives can be easier. Now that you are back, it's even better." The villagers ran around to tell each other with joyful expressions. Some people even cried with joy. This made Tyuo quite puzzled and even a little flattered. Could it be that the ninjas did a bad job before? Tyuo looked around and then shook his head to deny this idea. Even with his picky eyes, he could only praise it. The streets are clean and odorless, and the villagers are humble and polite. Even though he had been in the guard department for so many years, he had never seen such a peaceful scene on the streets of Konoha. Moreover, there were obviously more smiles among the villagers, unlike the previous period when they were dead and angry, and conflicts would occur at the slightest dissatisfaction. Tyuo couldn't understand why there was such a big change in everyone, and he didn't think it was the credit of the training. After all, he hadn't done anything. He didn't understand and didn't think too much about it. He took out the money, took the buns, and left under the reluctant gazes of everyone. Not long after he left, he saw a stall selling meat patties on the other side of the street. He walked forward, and before he could speak, the other party noticed him. After confirming that the other party was walking towards him, the vendor immediately leaned over to look at the cart, and when he saw that the edge of the cart seemed to have slightly crossed the line, his eyes became visibly flustered. He hurriedly pulled the cart and explained, "Sir, wait a minute. I definitely didn't cross the line on purpose. I was just giving change and my stomach accidentally hit it." Tyuo was puzzled and looked down. It was just a little bit of crossing the line. If no one reported it, they would just ignore it. But since the other party mentioned it, he had to say, "Just set up the position. If you are caught again, you will be taken back and reprimanded." The peddler was surprised, and he was relieved when he saw that the other party did not pursue it. He joked, "I understand. Confiscate the cart, detain for 3 days, and fine 5,000 taels." "How much?" "Confiscate the cart, detain for 3 days, and fine 5,000 taels?" Tyuo was stunned. How could he remember that the maximum fine for crossing the line was only 500 taels? So where did the detention and confiscation come from? 5,000 taels was even more impossible. If he did that, the police department would be flooded with reports. But seeing the other party's confident look, Tyuo knew that there must be something he didn't know about, so he had to nod and remain silent. After buying 2 meat patties, he hurriedly walked towards the police department. Shortly after he turned and left, the vendor looked up and noticed the family emblem behind Tyuo, and couldn't help but exclaimed, "So it's Uchiha. No wonder they didn't care. Great, finally it's over. They're back." Along the way, everyone who noticed his family emblem would exclaim, which made Tyuo feel very novel, until he returned to the police department and saw Hui with a smug look on his face. "These are the buns and meat patties you asked me to buy for you last night." After eating, take people to patrol. Tyuo, who was confused, didn't bother to pay attention to the other party. He put down his things and prepared to sit down on duty. He would also go to patrol the streets soon. "Captain, you didn't feel anything strange along the way?" Tyuo's eyes moved, and he looked at Hui and asked uncertainly, "Do you know what's going on?" "Of course. During the time you were training, Master Shisui and I worked very hard to change the inherent impression of our police department in the hearts of the villagers. Just me, I have to interrogate at least 800 cases every day." Hui patted his chest and spoke in a loud voice, attracting everyone who was preparing to leave in the hall. "So many?" Seeing that the other party was so confident, Tyuo, who didn't know the inside story, couldn't help but believe the other party in his heart. "Well, there were 100 or 80 at the beginning. Anyway, I suffered all kinds of hardships for the police department." Seeing that Tuo seemed to really believe it, Hui was embarrassed and changed his words. "Then you must know that crossing the line will be sentenced to 3 days of detention, confiscation of carts, and a fine of 5,000 taels?" As soon as Hui hesitated, Tuo realized something was wrong and asked immediately. Hui's eyes widened and he immediately retorted, "Who said that? This is slander. All my punishments are recorded. For such a small matter, the maximum fine is 500 taels, and it is definitely not more than that. If you don't believe me, you can look it up." After that, he picked up his things and walked out the door, leaving behind a lonely back. It is common for people like me to be misunderstood by some ignorant people for the sake of the family, but for the sake of the family, this little suffering is nothing. However, after going out, in a place where no one could see, Hui looked back, and after confirming that there was no one, he immediately shrank his neck and breathed a sigh of relief. "Oh no, who is reporting me?" Fortunately, I just scared them and didn't really do it, otherwise it would be troublesome. On the other side, Tuo saw Hui's statement and couldn't help but feel guilty. He and Lord Shisui have suffered a lot to prevent the coup. It seems that I misunderstood him. Tuo sighed, flipped through the records, and then his face suddenly changed. "Huh? Why are all the punishments at the maximum level?" Chapter 94 Akaya's Courage. In the evening, the snow is getting heavier and heavier. "I really hope this is the last one. I'm sorry to ask you to help at this time." Brother Hui seems to have been asked to work overtime. Inside the clan, Shisui pushed some supplies towards the western wasteland, and Daohao was beside him, pushing a cart. The two came from the outside and met many clan members along the way. Every clan member would bow and salute after seeing Shisui, and Shisui would nod in response. Daohao saw all of this. At this moment, he heard Shisui's words of apology and shook his head and said, "No, Lord Shisui is also for the family. People like me who don't understand change, except for my own strength, really don't know how to help the family." As he spoke, he looked up at the sky, and the hot air he exhaled blew away the oncoming snowflakes, but it couldn't blow away the confusion in his eyes. "Yesterday you said, water flows according to the terrain, and soldiers win according to the enemy. I thought about it all night. Only a wise man like you can say such a profound word. People like me, even if we just try to understand, it is difficult to do it." Shisui gradually walked to the front to lead the way. Hearing this, he said calmly, "Change lies in opportunity, pursuit, and courage. However, if there is no opportunity and pursuit, it is not a sign of cowardice to keep the original state." Opportunity and pursuit. Inahori was stunned. After thinking for a while, he chuckled and said, "I don't quite understand opportunities, but I do have some pursuits. Would you like to tell me about it?" "Ha ha ha, it's not a secret. I used to hope to be a powerful ninja, like my ancestors, with the power to maintain peace. Ha ha ha. Now I think I'm still a long way from it. As for now, I have joined the police department for so many years, and I have also participated in several ninja world wars. I have gained a lot and lost a lot. Instead, I just hope that the village and the family can live in peace. If only the clan leader could lead us like before. We had already succeeded when the fourth Hokage became Hokage. Why did that happen?" Inahiro's voice gradually faded. In such an environment, the power he relied on for survival and pride did not work at all. He didn't even know where to swing the knife in his hand. "No need to be confused. Your heart will be received by Uchiha, and so will I." Shisui smiled gently and looked at the senior, as if he was as confused as he was before. "It really sounds like something you would say." Inahiro smiled back, "No, I am always serious. If you don't know the direction, why not try to follow me closely? I will take you there." Shisui turned around and looked at Inahiro quietly. Inahiro slowly stopped, and the snowflakes fluttered, trying to cover the vision, but they couldn't block the red color that looked like a flame. "So that's it, is this opportunity and pursuit?" Inahiro chuckled. As one of the captains of the police department, how could he not know the rumors in the clan? But he had been hesitating all the time, and taking a step meant betrayal. "I also had someone I followed before, but I never worried about choosing a direction because he would decide everything and I only needed to look at his back. During that time, He was the hero of the clan in my all-time belief. I admired his strength, prestige and wisdom, and I had no doubt that he would lead Uchiha out of the predicament. However, I don't know since when, he also began to hesitate and feel lost. Was it because of setbacks and family? Don't blame anyone for meeting your requirements. This was taught to me by an elder. He has done very well, although he is a little confused now. I have never blamed him for it. During that time, I also took him as a role model. It's just that now, I feel that I can do better, for Uchiha and to make it easier for him. So, Senior Inahori, I hope to make a change, and I have the courage to take action. What about you? Looking at Shisui's resolute face, Inahori seemed to recall the time when he was with his companions, when they were just as confident. Could it be Lord Shisui? He didn't answer, but several figures walked slowly from the direction of the wasteland on the snow. They shrunk their necks and walked towards him the moment they saw Shisui clearly, their faces flushed and very excited. It's really Lord Shisui, thanks to the work and supplies you provided. We can finally sleep well these days. Now those people outside the clan are not targeting us anymore, and things are cheaper. I wonder if they are taking care of us. Ha ha ha. It shouldn't be possible. It must be Lord Shisui who did it. Thank you very much. It's a pity that my child is not good enough. Otherwise I must let him go to Lord Shisui's house to be a guard, even if I risk my life to protect Lord Shisui. You are really calculating. Lord Shisui doesn't need your son's protection. We are the ones talking. Shut up. Lord Shisui can't speak anymore. Several people talked to each other. Their lips moved quickly, and the air became much warmer. Shisui just smiled and watched the chat. After they quieted down, he said, "The family and the clan members have always been one. Your suffering is the family's suffering and my suffering. As a member of the Uchiha clan, it is my duty to help you wherever I can. Thank you, Lord Shisui." The people were moved. They were extremely grateful and admired for Shisui's modesty and gentleness. It would be great if Lord Shisui was the clan leader. Suddenly someone spoke up. Everyone was stunned for a moment, then looked at the person and scolded, "Don't say that directly. Lord Shisui will be troubled." "No, it should be me." "Thank you for thinking this way. I will work hard, for the family and for you." Shisui did not deny it. Instead, he smiled and readily agreed. Everyone looked at Shisui, all a little surprised, and then excited. "Yes, Lord Shisui, please do your best." Several people bowed, gave sincere blessings, and then disappeared in the snow. Inahuri watched all this quietly, and suddenly chuckled. It seems that the result has come out, and it seems that there is no need for me to answer that question anymore. No, Inahori-senpai's affirmation is also a kind of spiritual power for me. The power of the soul? What you said always makes it difficult for me to understand, but there is one thing I can be sure of, and I must tell you. What? Inahuri looked up and looked at Shisui, whose shoulders were piled with a little snow, and his voice was high. "I am Uchiha Inahori, from the Uchiha clan, the most powerful family in Konoha. I never lack courage." Shisui's eyes moved slightly, and he nodded slightly, then turned around and continued to walk forward. "I see, then let's see what kind of changes this courage will bring." Chapter 95, Great Unification. At night, in the Hokage building, the wind was howling and the snow was flying. Today is the 9th day, and tomorrow will be the day to decide everything. "Shisui, how are you preparing? Are you sure?" The Sandai kept smoking his pipe. His expression was very solemn, and the whole office was filled with smoke. There were also many Anbu ninjas hiding inside and outside the Hokage building, and the air was filled with a murderous atmosphere. Shisui lowered his head, and from the tone of the Sandai he knew that the other party could no longer hold back. Not only in the Hokage building, there were also many more eyes outside the Uchiha clan. A large part of Konoha's elite were secretly transferred here, and the Uchiha clan was surrounded. He had to reveal some progress to the Sandai, so that he would not be unable to bear the pressure and take action first, thereby irritating the clan members. Ever since Danzo and assistant Tenso were imprisoned in the clan territory by the third Hokage, I have taken the opportunity to persuade the Great Elder. The Great Elder saw Konoha's sincerity and promised to help me prevent the coup. As for the second Elder, he is as loyal to Konoha as I am, As long as the coup can be prevented, he will not interfere in replacing clan leader Fugaku. I have also tried my best to persuade the police department and the clan ninjas. Most of them are still loyal to Konoha and are unwilling to launch a coup. With their support, the operation tomorrow night will definitely go smoothly. The third Hokage exhaled smoke, and he finally breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Shisui's promise. If the two elders help you, the chances of success are indeed very high. But Shisui, I will not gamble with the safety of the entire village. If I fail to receive your signal before the agreed time tomorrow night, I must take action for Konoha. I hope you understand this. Yes, third generation, I understand what you mean. For Konoha, I will definitely succeed. Please, Shisui, no matter what, we must avoid the worst outcome, Shisui solemnly promised, and then left the Hokage building. When returning to the clan land, he keenly noticed that the number of ninjas lurking in the dark was increasing. These people have familiar figures, but also some unfamiliar auras. Because he was born in Uchiha, Shisui knew how strong Uchiha was. If the Uchiha ninjas were fully prepared to go to war with Konoha, even if they could not win, most of the ninjas here would die. By then, Konoha would exist in name only, and the ideals of the first generation and Madara's ancestors would be shattered. Fortunately, the people from the Root and the Yutani family were not here, which meant that although the third generation was a little uneasy, he still maintained his last bit of rationality. If it were Grandpa, perhaps he would remain calm even at a moment like this. I'm still far from that. Noticing the change in his mood, Shisui sighed in his heart, then laughed it off and accelerated back home. Grandpa, I'm back. Across the yard, Shisui saw Sima Yi sitting in the corridor enjoying the snow and drinking tea. He was as calm as he remembered. Come and sit. Shisui shook off the snow on his body and came to Sima Yi. He said in a slightly low voice, the third generation is ready to take action. If I fail tomorrow, Konoha will perish in civil strife. Shisui took the matter very seriously, but Sima Yi just drank tea quietly and didn't care. The blood of the Uchiha is very strong. As long as the third generation has some ideas, he will not let the Uchiha really perish. As for Konoha, haha, you have such eyes, there is no place in the world that you can't go. Sima Yi shook his head and told Shisui what he was thinking. The Land of Fire is located in a plain. Although it is rich, it has no strategic location to defend. A place surrounded by 4 wars is definitely not the foundation of a king. It would be fine if there's a stable rear. Unfortunately, except for the small countries used as buffers, there are tigers and wolves looking for opportunities to spy on the land. The Land of Fire has no natural defenses and no strong support from outside. It is only a matter of time before it is destroyed. What? Shisui was stunned. He hadn't digested the impact of his family yet, and there was another crisis of Konoha. However, Konoha's strength ranks first among the 5 major countries. All the previous ninja world wars were won against many. If it weren't for the Uchiha preparing for a coup, he never thought that other countries had the ability to destroy Konoha. As long as we can stop the coup and prevent Konoha from civil strife, Konoha should not perish, right? After all, these words came from Sima Yi's mouth. Although Shisui couldn't believe it, he was still a little hesitant. Unless a strong man who can deter the world appears again, there will be a 4th and 5th ninja world wars, until Konoha is dragged down and completely turned into a meal for other countries. Shisui listened and his face became uglier and uglier. He only thought of the picture of Uchiha and Konoha getting along peacefully, but he had not yet considered the situation in the ninja world and the future of Konoha. Grandpa, is there really no way to bring peace to the ninja world? Sima Yi looked at Shisui. If it was someone else, he would say that he was ambitious, but if it was Shisui, he would only say that he was naive. It's not difficult to stabilize Konoha. As for bringing peace to the ninja world, Shisui's eyes widened, his eyes full of expectation. If the world is unified, maybe there will be peace for a while. Sima Yi is familiar with history books, but he has never seen the so-called peace. Only by achieving unification can internal stability be guaranteed for a period of time, but he does not believe in permanent peace. Don't you see, the Han court is so powerful, but it is still torn apart and constantly attacked. Unification of the world? Shisui frowned and muttered. If the world is returned to one family, how can there be such disputes? Can't we achieve permanent peace? Seeing Shisui's interest, Sima Yi became interested and began to speak eloquently, constantly describing the benefits of unification. As for the troubles after unification, he believed in the wisdom of future generations. Shisui listened, his eyes shining, and kept asking for details. The two chatted for hours and even forgot about tomorrow's business. It was not until late at night that Sima Yi felt sleepy and Uchiha came to remind him. Shisui then realized that it was getting late. He immediately stood up and said apologetically, "The time spent talking with Grandpa always goes by so quickly. Grandpa is tired again. You should go back and rest first." Sima Yi nodded, stood up and replied, "You don't have to think too much about the clan leader's affairs. We have prepared enough. You just need to rest up and come to the study to see me early tomorrow morning to discuss the last step." "Yes, Grandpa. I stayed in the hospital for a day for examination today, so I didn't write much. I should add more tomorrow. I will try my best to update the coup process at one time." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96. I don't want to fight. The two of them rested until the next morning. What the police department wants is the respect of the villagers, and the harmony of Konoha is not rejected. Now that prices are falling, the villagers' hostility will gradually dissipate. There are also ninjas from outside the clan who have been jailed for 7 days as a comparison. In the short term, the villagers will not target them again. Spread the news and attribute the credit for the price reduction to the police department. In this way, even ordinary clan members will be looked up to. Of course, ordinary clan members just want a stable life. Those merchants who deliberately targeted them have been arrested and imprisoned. The remaining small vendors have also been much more honest after being deterred. Build a large-scale project in the clan and give some clan members who have a hard life a job. In this way, the wishes of both the upper and lower poles of the clan have been satisfied. What remains are the elders and middle-level ninjas. In the study, Sima Yi explained in detail to Shisui the purpose and significance of his recent actions. Shisui listened and nodded repeatedly, adding, "The great elder has already sent a letter. The elders he represents have all expressed their full support for me to replace clan leader Fugaku. As for the second elder, although they did not express their support directly, they will give their utmost support for my grandfather as long as they can stop the coup." Sima Yi nodded, stroked his beard and said, "In this way, there will only be middle-level ninjas left in the entire clan." Upon hearing this, Shisui further said, "Grandfather once taught me that the best strategy to accomplish things is to win over the hearts of the people. Although time is tight now, I want to go one step further in order to win over the hearts of the entire clan and decide the fate of the family together." Ha ha ha, good. I'm very pleased that you have this idea. Can you tell me in detail? Sima Yi laughed, stroking his beard, very satisfied. Shisui looked a little excited. After thinking for a moment, he replied, "I want to invite some ninjas in the clan to my house for a gathering. I will try to find out who is willing to support me and who will oppose it at noon." Sima Yi frowned slightly after hearing this. The method was not crude. After all, it was too late. This was already very good. Yes, you can also use this method to test the leader of the Fugaku clan. However, what excuse do you plan to use to invite them? Since the clan moved and lost some of their ancestral property, the clan has become increasingly poor. They have also seen the lives of ordinary clan members recently. You can use this as an excuse to invite them to discuss solutions. Sima Yi shook his head slowly. It's a good idea. If it were earlier, we could slowly try to win them over. However, we will take action tonight, and there are hundreds of ninjas in the clan. This method is time-consuming and laborious, and may not be very effective. There is no need to be so euphemistic. What reason should I use? Shisui was puzzled and looked at Sima Yi expecting instruction. You have already taken control of the entire police department, which is also the most elite force in the entire Uchiha. Why not make good use of it? You can directly mention the rumors in the clan that they want to replace the clan leader in the letter, and then ask your confidants to deliver it, and then mention the coup as external pressure. The moment they receive the letter, they will surely make a choice, and those who support you will naturally be willing to come. Those who don't want to come. Sima Yi's eyes were sharp, but after looking at Shisui and thinking for a while, he said lightly, those who don't want to come can ask your confidants to write it down, and then send people to secretly watch the clan leader's mansion. If someone tips off the news, they can be captured directly. Even if not, they can be transferred to one place before taking action, and they can be temporarily detained with a barrier or by someone, and then dealt with after the matter is done. This. Shisui frowned, but agreed after just a little hesitation. At this point, he couldn't hesitate because of one or two clan members. I will ask Uncle 8th and Brother Hua to help me invite the clan ninjas before noon. Well, even so, there are too many clan ninjas. I have the clan roster here. I will help you select some influential or powerful ninjas from it. In addition, some ninjas are said to admire you very much, and some even hope that you will become the clan leader. You can invite them. Sima Yi took out the marked roster from the bookshelf and handed it to Shisui. Shisui took it solemnly with an excited expression. Thank you, Grandpa. I won't let you down. Well, go ahead. After leaving home, Shisui did not go directly to the police department, but went to the Hokage building first. Today's operation requires the help of the police department. I will temporarily confine the clan members to the police department. I hope that the third generation will let the Anbu take over the work of the police department. This proposal was exactly what the third generation wanted. He immediately nodded in agreement and then issued an order. An enemy assassin was found in the village and wanted to assassinate Konoha's senior officials. In order to protect the Hokage, the Anbu will take over all the defense of the village in the near future. After the order was issued, it quickly spread throughout Konoha. The biggest reaction was not from the police department, but from the villagers. Why are there assassins again? The Uchiha people just came back and have only had a few days of good life. Is it over? Will the Anbu people be like those guys? What nonsense are you talking about? This is to protect the Hokage. Keep your voice down, or you will be arrested for slandering the Anbu. Everyone was shocked, and the villagers kept complaining in secret. Shisui recalled the clan members who were still on patrol, and then personally announced the Hokage's order. Everyone in the police department knew that the fate of the entire clan was related to the next 2 days, so they didn't care about the movements outside the clan and stayed in the lobby of the police department. Afterwards, Shisui privately called Yashiro, Yangs, Inahori and Hu. The four of them came to an office and saw Shisui with a serious face. Shisui looked at the four people and went straight to the point. I need your help tonight. The expressions of the four people all changed, and then without hesitation, they bowed their heads and half knelt. Yangs, immediately dispatch your trusted aides from the police department to seal off the residence of Chief Fugaku. No tribe member is allowed to approach today. Yangs's pupils shrank, and he was shocked. But he still responded quickly, yes. Yashiro, you and Inahiro will take people to hand over the letters I prepared to the people on the list. Make sure they reply in person, and write down those who don't want to come secretly. Yes. In addition, notify all tribe members that there is an assassin sneaking into the village. After nightfall, no one is allowed to leave their homes. Yes. Who? I appoint you as the temporary captain of the first team. You will take people to the house of the Great Elder to ask for the clan's boundary map, and then check the clan's boundary, and open the boundary after nightfall. Yes. After the order was issued, Inahiro suddenly asked, then, where is Tiyuo? The three people had different expressions. After a moment of silence, Shisui replied directly, I am not interested in fighting. This operation is only for the stability of Konoha and the survival of their family. As long as he is willing to stay here honestly, I will transfer some people from the family to lead him and let him guard the police department in case of emergency. He said he was in charge, but in fact he was monitoring. Everyone naturally understood that, but Inahori was relieved when he heard it, and replied, that's good. Chapter 97 The Power of Boarding. It was snowing heavily, the sky and earth were all white, snowflakes fell on the eaves, one after another, piling up for a day and a night, until at some point, layers of snow fell, rustling. "Dad, are you unhappy?" In a courtyard in the east of the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Shisui, who had retired from the police department for several years, sat on the corridor in a daze, watching the snow sliding down in the courtyard. At some point, he heard the crisp cry of his youngest son. "Huh? Dad is not unhappy. Why do you ask?" Uchiha Shisui lowered his head, picked up his 2.5-year-old son and forced a smile. The scar from the corner of his eye to the corner of his mouth looked particularly hideous. "Then why are your eyebrows like this?" "Like this?" The innocent look of the child with a frown made Uchiha Shisui laugh, and he couldn't help but rub his chin against the child's cheek, causing the child's expression to twist and push away with both hands. "Dad, don't do this, it hurts." "Dad, ha ha ha, okay, Dad won't hurt." He laughed heartily and threw his son high up, as if to throw away the troubles in his heart. "But if the child catches it again, the troubles will come back again." He put the child on the ground and looked at the snow on the other houses. The snow was thick, and the child just laughed a few times and the snow fell down in pieces. "Just like the family now. It is in danger and will collapse in an instant." He has the 3 Magatama Sharingan that makes the clan members and the world envy, but he still has no way to deal with such a situation. In the next 2 days, will the clan leader really launch a coup? Can Shisui stop the clan leader? Can I protect the last family member? These 3 questions surrounded his heart, making him confused and silent. "Dad, are you unhappy again?" The child's doubts awakened him again. Uchiha Shisui gently picked him up and stroked the back of his head. His eyes changed from confusion to determination. "It's okay, don't worry, Dad will protect you and your sister no matter what." The child knew nothing, just tilted his head. Suddenly, Uchiha Shisui eyes changed. He patted his son's shoulder, and whispered, "Go back to the house to find your sister first. Dad has something to go out for." Okay. After his son left, Uchiha Shisui looked outside the yard, and quickly came to the top of the yard wall, looking down from above. "Shisui, why are you standing so high?" Outside the yard was Inahori, who came to deliver a letter. He looked up at Shisui on the wall with a strange expression. "I'm more curious why Captain Inahori came to find me at this time." Shisui jumped off the yard wall, his tone a little impatient. He had left the police department for more than 2 years and really didn't want to have anything to do with that place anymore, especially in this special period now. Inahiro could hear the other party's impatience. He knew the other party's past and didn't care. He raised the letter in his hand and said, "This is a letter from Shisui-sama. I picked it out and came to give it to you in person." "Shisui-sama?" Shisui heart moved. At this critical moment, all of Shisui's actions affected the hearts of the elite in the clan, including him. He immediately took the letter, held it in his hand but hesitated to open it, feeling very complicated. As a minority who opposed the coup at the time of voting, Shisui time was undoubtedly the most difficult. "Look, this is a moment that concerns the fate of the family. You should also have something you want to protect and cherish the most." Hearing Inahiro's advice, Shisui sighed and opened the letter. "Senior Shisui wrote to me personally, it is the time of the new year, when the family enjoyed peace and happiness after the great victory on the Western Front. However, the clan leader Fugaku disregarded the safety of the family and the survival of Konoha, and acted in a perverse way, starting a war and discussing a coup. Shisui knows that he is only a 3-foot-tall young man, but he knows that Konoha is surrounded by enemies from both inside and outside the Fire Country, and there are tigers and wolves everywhere. The clan leader's move has affected the whole body, and he is showing his small intentions without considering the overall situation. I am afraid that Konoha will be destroyed at any time. I still remember, crossed out, the time when we fought with the Miss Ninja. The clan members hated me in every way and thought that I was ignoring the family to show goodwill to Konoha, but I always remember that there was Shisui before the Uchiha. My heart is towards the family and the clan members. This heart is clear, and the sun and the moon are my witnesses, and the Lois is my witness. After all my efforts, it has only been more than a month, and there are rumors in the clan that they hope I will become the clan leader. This is the change of people's hearts. Although this is not my intention, I do not want my clan members to suffer such bloody disasters and Konoha to suffer such disasters. Therefore, I wrote this letter to invite like-minded people to gather at home to discuss this matter, to protect the family together, and to seek peace. Isaac read it all in one breath, frowning tightly. There were words in the letter that he could understand, but there were some places where he could only vaguely understand the meaning, and the styles were very different before and after. And it did not seem like it was written by the same person. But this is not important. Although there are some ups and downs, he can still read the whole text and understand what Shisui wanted to express. He was in a low mood. The meaning of the letter seemed to indicate that Shisui's 10-day agreement had failed, and in order to prevent the coup, he was now ready to take another path. How do you feel after reading the letter? The content of the letter was basically the same, and Inahori naturally knew it. Seeing Isaac's solemn expression, he couldn't help but ask. Isaac was a little surprised, and then he realized that Inahori was the confidant of the Fugaku clan leader. Why would this letter be sent by him? Do you know the contents of the letter? Of course I know, so I came to give it to you personally. Isao's pupils shrank, and his 5 fingers subconsciously pinched the letter. After a long time, he looked at Inahiko and said, "So that's how it is. I didn't expect you to make such a choice. I do this just for my family and for him." Inahiko was very calm. He looked directly at the other person without any dodging, and without any guilt. Haha, in fact, whether Lord Shisui is sure or not, whether you come or not, I will go. But since you're standing here, I believe he should have won. Isao chuckled, his expression a little ferocious, and said, "As for the war with Konoha, I don't see any chance of winning. You know, I only have the 2 of them left. No matter who the enemy is, I will use these eyes to protect them. I know that you and I, as well as them, we all have people we want to protect. The power of those who have been lost is in these eyes. Let them watch carefully. I will follow Lord Shisui to change everything, including their share. This is Uchiha. I have the power of my companions and family, and I never lack the courage to fight. These eyes are inhabited by the power of the old people. They will see everything about the living through these eyes. This is the philosophy of Uchiha Inahori and also the philosophy of Uchiha Isao." The 2 looked at each other, and the Sharingan opened involuntarily. Chapter 98, Gathering Troops at the Mansion. The wind was howling, the snow was still falling, the wind and snow blocked the view. The snow was 1 foot and 3 meters high, and it was difficult to walk. Near noon, Shisui had people build a shed in the yard. The tarpaulin rustled in the wind. The tarpaulin in the yard was not to resist the wind and snow, but to prevent people from standing on a high place to spy. More than 50 futons were placed in the hall, which was a bit crowded. The lunch prepared was only rice balls, meat soup and a glass of wine. In addition, some military pills were reserved for the evening. Although the conditions were a bit worse, no one would come here to eat at this time. Shisui wore chain mail, a forehead protector, and a short blade on his waist. The symbols of Konoha and Uchiha were all displayed on this outfit. He stood in the yard and let the wind and snow alternate, standing still and imposing. "Grandpa, I sent out 50 invitations, and 46 people have clearly expressed their willingness to come. They are on their way now. I am not familiar with 3 of them. The last one is Uncle Yizheng, brother who has said that he took Uncle Yizheng to check the clan boundary together. In addition, Yangs sent a message that there is no movement near the clan leader's house, and everything is going smoothly." Sima Yi stood beside Shisui, quietly listening to the information brought by Shisui. He nodded slowly. This was not much different from the news he received. The arrival of 46 people was enough to show that Shisui had won the support of the people and great things could be accomplished. Now that we have cut him off from the outside world and the news, if he is alone, there will be no mistakes even if you don't use your eyes tonight. However, it is better to be careful. When you were training the police department, I sent people to monitor the clan leader's mansion. After collecting intelligence recently, it was found that apart from Bachi who went to the western part of the clan every day, only the clan leader's wife would go out to purchase supplies on a daily basis. But she has not come out since the end of the police department training. This behavior is a bit abnormal. The clan leader must have noticed something. Aunt Mikoto, Shisui frowned. Aunt Mikoto was very good to him, and she was Ichi's mother, a very gentle person. He didn't want to fight with her. Seeing Shisui's concerns, Sima Yi suggested, just block the clan leader's mansion and don't let them appear in the family alley openly today and be known to the world. After all, it was a usurpation of power. It would be better to solve it in secret than to make it known to the world. Well, I understand. I will let Senior in a hurry lead people to strengthen the blockade. Shisui nodded and summoned Shinobi Crow immediately. Sima Yi suddenly raised his hand to stop him, and said earnestly, "Let the 8th generation go. There is heavy snow blocking the road and assassins hiding outside. You can use this as an excuse to speed up the action. Let the clan members go home earlier, and then directly block the family alley. This matter can be done by Dohao." Shisui knew that Sima Yi did not trust Dohao, but he did not refute and directly agreed. Not long after Shisui left, the people who received the invitation began to arrive one after another. After paying their respects to Shisui, they were led by Xuwa and Miwa to the hall and found a place to sit on both sides with their backs to the door and waited quietly. They were also wearing chainmail, forehead protectors, and their equipment was neatly worn. Their eyes were bright, showing their fierceness and determination. Everyone knew what it meant to come here. After entering this courtyard, Shisui would never let them leave. At least they could not go back before tomorrow, and they would stay here until the action began or ended. They had said goodbye to their families, chose to believe in Shisui, and came here for what they wanted in their hearts. They came here for different reasons, some for their families, some for their clans, some for their beliefs, and perhaps some for Konoha. But the reasons that made them believe in Shisui and place their power here were surprisingly the same. The heart is devoted to the family. The heart is concerned about the clan members. This heart is clear. The sun and the moon can be a witness. The lotus can be a witness. Such a heart is worthy of their entrustment and trust. As agreed, everyone arrived within a few minutes, then knelt on the mat, waiting quietly. After the last person arrived, Shisui turned his back to Sima Yi and slowly walked into the hall. The two did not communicate. Shisui went straight to the first seat. He stood in front of everyone, and everyone looked up at him, without any extra words or movements. Shisui looked at everyone seriously. His heart was surging, and then he slowly bowed. "Everyone, thank you." Everyone sat upright, bowed their heads, and shouted in unison, "Please, Lord Shisui." Then there was a suffocating silence. Everyone sat in the hall with their eyes closed and quietly waited for the night to fall. Perhaps they were also enjoying this silence. The mobilization ended just like that, without sensationalism or encouragement. Sima Yi stood outside the door and watched all this quietly, feeling puzzled and helpless. But he knew vaguely that this was Uchiha, and Shisui had done an excellent job of mobilization. That was all, and things here could be left to Shisui without any worries. He turned and left, returned to the study, reviewed the previous actions several times, and then deduced the ending of tonight. After confirming that it was correct, he picked up the clan boundary map that Hui had asked from the elder and looked at it carefully. The barrier of the Uchiha clan only has the effect of protection and shielding. Once opened, it can prevent external intrusion and prying, but he soon found many loopholes in the barrier. These loopholes were very obvious. Perhaps they were intentional, or perhaps they were caused by the shortage of funds after the Uchiha moved the clan. "Yingshu, go find Hui and ask him to send people to guard these places. Also, tell him to be cautious at all times after the barrier is opened. Wowo has ordered that no one should pass through the barrier." Sima Yi took out 8 pieces of red talisman paper and handed them to Yingshu, and then ordered, "Take these 8 pieces of talisman paper with you, and ask him to distribute them to his confidants and stick them on the 8 directions of the clan land to wait for the barrier to be opened and activated together." "Yes." Yingshu took the talisman paper, put on the mask and left immediately. After he left, Sima Yi sat quietly in front of the table, spread out the paper, picked up the brush and hesitated for a moment, then started writing on the right side of the paper, writing the 3 big characters from top to bottom. In this way, several hours passed in a flash, until the wind stopped, the snow thinned, and the sky gradually darkened. Shisui suddenly stood up, and everyone opened their eyes one after another. The air suddenly became solemn and filled with a murderous atmosphere. His expression was calm and his breath was steady. When he came to the outside of the courtyard, Sima Yi had been waiting here for a while. "Grandpa, it's almost time." Sima Yi looked at the sky and nodded, saying, "Let's get started." Yes. Almost as soon as Shisui finished speaking, Yangs, Dohao, and Yashiro, who had received the news early, came to Shisui in an instant. "Notify all elders and all clan members who are eligible to attend the clan meeting to hold a clan meeting at the home of clan leader Fugaku in 1 hour. Yes. One more thing." Sima Yi stood beside Shisui and reminded him in a low voice. "Akaichi." Shisui was silent. He knew what Sima Yi wanted to say. He didn't want to mention Ichi in front of Sima Yi because he had made up some reasons to secretly invite him to come, but he never responded. He hesitated a little. If he let Ichi stay at home, he was worried that he would hurt Ichi or let him see something, but if he brought him out, it would undoubtedly be to use him. However, this silence only lasted for a moment. He took out a bamboo stick from his arms, and the number 58 was engraved on the bamboo stick. Shisui's eyes changed, chakra attached, and he wiped his thumb on the bamboo stick. The number disappeared instantly, and then he slowly carved a 1. "I will go there myself and bring Ichi back." Chapter 99 The Power of Worry. No, Sima Yi did not say anything, but the three of them objected in unison. "Now is a critical moment. You must not meet him alone." Ba Dai's expression was serious and he advised sternly, "His decision may not be right, but his strength is unquestionable." Yangs and Dohao also advised successively, "The word evil eyes is not just because Fugaku looks fierce. His strength on the battlefield has been recognized by the world, and no one would think he is a weak person." Shisui paused and immediately realized that he had spoken out of turn. Such behavior was not rational. You can send someone to bring a letter and call him in on the pretext of the incident in the western wasteland. After he leaves home, you can also have someone report the clan meeting to the clan leader to prevent suspicion. Sima Yi added softly, and the three immediately looked at him, all with surprise in their eyes. They knew that because the house was blown down by the strong wind, there was such a person living in Shisui's house, but they never thought that this person would be of any help to Shisui. After all, he was just a 10,000-year-old genin who had not opened the Sharingan at the age of 50. "Since my real body can't go, how about letting the clone or the ninja go to invite Shisui?" Shisui tilted his head. Since Sima Yi's frankness in public would not affect the overall situation, he asked, which could also help him establish his authority. "No, it might be disrespectful if the clone or the ninja went. The alley is blocked today, and he must have noticed it. Don't rush in. I can't go." "Then who should be sent to notify?" Sima Yi looked at the ground calmly, without specifying, but just suggested, "You can send a confidant, but if you can't get Ichi out of the Fugaku clan leader's house, your life may be in danger." Shisui's eyes moved slightly, and he looked at Sima Yi sideways. He became suspicious and fell into a moment of contemplation. "I'll go." At this moment, Inahori suddenly half-knelt in front of Shisui and said resolutely. Shisui frowned and was about to refuse, but was interrupted by Inahiro. He said, "I have followed the chief of the Fugaku clan for more than 10 years. He has saved me several times on the battlefield. If he suspects me today and attacks me, I will give him my life. If he doesn't suspect me, I will take Ichi away and let him grow up safely." Everyone was moved and sad. No one wanted to see such a big family fall into internal strife. Shisui's expression was even heavier. He walked forward slowly, helped Inahiro up, and then looked at him sincerely. "Ichi is very important to me, and you are equally important to me. I can sacrifice myself for Ichi, and I can also sacrifice myself for you, but I will never sacrifice you for Ichi. There is still some time, and I will find a way to deal with Ichi's matter." "No, I understand your intentions, but these eyes tell me that I will not be wrong this time. My actions are not just to prove myself, but also to face the past and correct my mistakes. Please forgive my reckless courage again." Inahiro bowed and chose a set of words that Shisui could not refuse. Shisui opened his mouth and nodded slowly. "I will have someone pick him up outside. The future of the family needs your support. Please cherish your life." Inahiri nodded and left in an instant. After he left, Shisui took a deep breath and his eyes were no longer confused. The action has begun. From this moment on, any sacrifice is possible. Notify the elders to prepare for the clan meeting. Check the alleys again, especially near the clan leader's house, and send people to pick up Inahori, and notify Uchiha to prepare to open the barrier. Orders were issued one after another, and the two responded quickly and then led people to execute. Then Shisui selected suitable candidates in the hall and went to the clan to bring the other 3 clan members who did not come and their affiliated followers to the police department, and cooperated with Uchiha to monitor them. As for the other scattered ninjas in the clan who were loyal to Fugaku, neither Sima Yi nor Shisui cared. They were not strong, not many, and not prestigious, and would not have any impact on this operation. After the orders within the clan were arranged, Sima Yi motioned Shisui to step aside and whispered, "It's getting dark, and the timing is right. I wrote a letter to the 3rd generation on your behalf using your identity as an Anbu. You can read it first." Shisui was puzzled, and took the letter and opened it casually. After reading it, his expression became even more puzzled. The letter was written by Sima Yi imitating Shisui's notes and codes. The content was very simple. In addition to expressing loyalty, it divided the family into camps, but it was decided by the identity of an Anbu. What's the use of this letter? And I wanted to ask before, I have already joined the police department, and I should quit the Anbu. Why doesn't Grandpa agree with me to quit the Anbu, and still act as an Anbu? After reading it, Shisui didn't find anything special. If Sima Yi hadn't mentioned the Anbu first, he wouldn't have remembered it. Sima Yi did not explain too much, just said, the letter was just a casual move, and the identity of the Anbu was just for convenience. If you have no objection, I will have someone send it to the 3rd generation. Shisui frowned slightly. He knew there must be something fishy, but Sima Yi didn't say it, and he couldn't force him to ask, so he had to give up. However, after hesitating for a moment, he still asked, "Then what happened to Senior Inahori? Was it Grandpa who did it on purpose?" Sima Yi did not deny it, and nodded and admitted readily, he is the most suitable candidate, and he can also use this to make a final test on Fugaku. Shisui opened his mouth, but was speechless. He had some doubts just now, but he didn't say anything because there were too many people. At the moment, I have the advantage. It is far from the time to burn my boats. I should remember that a gentleman should not stand under a dangerous wall. Moreover, Inahori has a close relationship with Fugaku. First, it can eliminate vigilance. Second, if he returns safely, it can also eliminate grudges, and he can be entrusted with important tasks in the future. Third, if he really gets into trouble, it is enough to show that Fugaku has noticed the crisis and will not be willing to be trapped at home. But he has not carried out any personnel transfers or luring in checks and balances until now. Either he is really slow to react and has not noticed it until now, then we can naturally solve it easily, or he has the confidence to quell the rebellion and does not care about our little tricks. Without relying on the power of the family, but having the confidence to quell the rebellion, Shisui's eyes are solemn, and he immediately understands Sima Yi's worries, which is also the possibility he is most worried about. As the head of the family, Fugaku should know all the secrets of the family, so how could he not know the Mangekyo Sharingan? If this conjecture is correct, with the other party's experience, the application of these eyes should be far greater than his. Moreover, after reading the family heritage, Shisui knew that the pupil technique of each pair of eyes might be different. For ninjas, the unknown represents danger. If he really awakens this pair of eyes, Shisui imagined the two of them fighting in the clan land with the Mangekyo, and shook his head. The consequences were too serious. If he concealed the Mangekyo, the trust of the 3rd generation in him would collapse instantly. The amazing strength of the Uchiha would make the Konoha high-level officials more vigilant against them, and the suppression would continue. If something happens to Inahori, when you act tonight, don't hesitate. You must take the first step and directly use Kodoa Mitsukami to change his mind, and then start the clan meeting. Let the elders and the elite of the clan vote to complete the process, and after he abdicates, you will be the legitimate clan leader. However, you must remember that you must never let a third person know the ability of your pupil technique. Remember, it is anyone. Sima Yi's expression was serious, and he emphasized again that as long as he took the initiative to control Fugaku, he could get a pair of Mangekyo. He clearly remembered that the book clearly emphasized that excessive use of the Mangekyo would lead to blindness, and this pair of eyes could be kept for Shisui. As for Fugaku, perhaps everyone who knew about the action tonight thought that they would kill him, but in fact Sima Yi was not willing to do so. Not to mention Shisui's own wishes, directly killing his superior Fugaku was a bad idea in itself, and it should never be done unless it was absolutely necessary. It is difficult for all superiors to tolerate the inferior overcoming the superior, especially when the immediate superior, the third generation, is still there. Such behavior will be resentful to the other party for a long time even if the other party does not say anything in the short term. Who would dare to trust someone who can kill his own family head in public? Shisui nodded, understanding in his heart. Chapter 100 Sariachi, this is the last time. In the clan leader's house, Fugaku stood on the corridor in thin clothes, letting the wind and snow beat him. He held the feed with a calm expression and watched the snowflakes fall into the pond. Then he sprinkled the bait little by little, quietly watching the small fish shuttle back and forth in the pond, constantly running between food and clothing. Ichi? Are you worried about something? The door was open. Ichi sat in the house, and his eyes fell on Fugaku's back from time to time. Away from the tedious affairs of the family, Fugaku spent more time and attention on Ichi, and at this moment he actually noticed that Ichi was different. Ichi shook his head and replied, "It's snowing so hard today, I'm thinking about the workers in the West. It should be difficult and dangerous to work." Workers? Fugaku's hand paused slightly, and he couldn't help but think of the family situation. Now the Uchiha clan has thousands of clan members, and it is not difficult to feed 1,000 ordinary people with the existing family industry. But they are Uchiha. There are 400 ninjas among 1,000 people, and the daily consumption of these ninjas is several times, or even 10 times, that of ordinary people. But most of them have almost no income during the peacetime. Besides, Brother Shisui also hopes that I can go there to help. Speaking of Shisui, Ichi's expression was still calm, but his eyes revealed a complicated look. After hearing this, Fugaku slowly raised his head and looked at the snow in the yard. After a long time, he said, "Go if you want to. There is still some money at home. Take some with you. Brother Shisui has paid them." Ichi was a little confused. It was the first time he saw his father asking him to take the money from home to help the tribe. Fugaku was silent, not knowing how to explain, but at this time, the wooden board suddenly made a creaking sound. Sasuke, who was 1.5 years old, came out of the inner room wrapped tightly. He swayed his body to Ichi's side and pulled his clothes, timidly shouting. Brother Ichi's heart moved, raised his hand to hold him in his arms, and gently stroked his head. Fugaku never looked back, but looked at the edge of the pond, only to see that there was an extra person there at some point. Master Clan Leader. The person who came was Inahib. He half knelt in the snow and saluted. When Fugaku saw Inahib, there was some surprise in his eyes. He did not ask him why he came here, but asked, "Where is Tiyuo?" Inahib paused, and replied without hiding anything, "In the police department. An assassin was found in the village. Lord Hokage has ordered the Anbu to take over the defense of the police department. Lord Shisui left Tiyuo in the police department in case of emergency." Fugaku looked directly at Inahib and sighed for a long time. "I see." He did not ask any further questions, but turned his head to look at Ichi. "Let's go to the west and take Sasuke with you. Those are our people. You should go and take care of them." Ichi was holding Sasuke, and he couldn't help but whispered when he heard it, "It's too cold outside, and it's getting late. It's not good for Sasuke's health. I can go by myself. Take him." Fugaku, who never forced Ichi, changed his usual behavior and repeated it again. Then he looked at Inahuri again. "Ichi, I believe you will take good care of Sasuke." The two of them paused and looked at Fugaku at the same time. Inahuri's heart sank suddenly. He looked up at Fugaku, then slowly lowered his head, letting the snowflakes fall. Ichi let go of Sasuke, feeling doubtful. After a moment, he picked up Sasuke and nodded heavily. "I will." With a swish, the wooden door slid. followed by the creaking sound of stepping on the snow, which gradually faded away. "Sit down. Why did you come to see me at this time?" Fugaku said as he picked up the tea. Mikoto stood in front of the door of the inner room and looked at the two of them. She came to the corridor with the hot tea, put it down, and then slowly left. Inahiro didn't move, but said bluntly, "Master Shisui will hold a clan meeting here in an hour. I will notify him." Fugaku looked at Inahiro deeply and asked calmly, "Isn't this what he said?" Seeing that Inahiro didn't refute, Fugaku took a sip of tea and said softly, "Go back and tell him, the clan meeting will be held as he said." Inahiro kept his head down, half kneeling there, motionless. "Go." He didn't look up until Fugaku spoke again, and stared at Fugaku with 3 magatama. "Yes, clan leader." When Inahiro left, there was only the sound of wind in the yard. When there was no bait on the pond, the small fish sank to the bottom of the pond. "Are you all gone?" A pair of soft hands came from Fugaku's shoulders and put on his coat. Mikoto stood beside him and gently helped him dress. Fugaku nodded, then went through the wall door with Mikoto, sat quietly in the hall, looking at the footprints left by Inahiro outside the corridor, wondering what he was thinking. On the other side, Yasai sent people to secretly follow Ichi and Sasuke until the two arrived at Shisui's house. Brother Shisui. When Ichi reacted and ran from the west of the clan land to Shisui's house, the sky was gradually getting dark. He looked at the fully armed Shisui with doubts in his heart, and subconsciously hugged Sasuke tightly, and then looked at the people in the yard, wanting to say something but stopping. Shisui stepped forward and came in front of Ichi. He turned his back to Sima Yi and said softly, "Sorry, Grandpa, Ichi is the only one who doesn't want to do this." Sima Yi was silent and did not say anything to dissuade him. Shisui raised his hand and gently stroked the back of Ichi's head. The two foreheads were close together. Ichi completely understood, but for some reason, he couldn't speak, and couldn't even feel his body. He only heard Shisui's gentle voice in his ears. "I won't let you fall into a dilemma. I will let you live a smooth life. This bamboo stick is a belated birthday gift. So, I'm sorry Ichi, I still can't be with you this time. Have a good sleep. Everything will be over when you wake up." "No." Ichi's heart suddenly shrank, his eyes ached, and the tears that had flowed down at some point blurred his vision. A magatama slowly took shape in his eyes. He was excited and screamed hard, trying to look up at Shisui, but he only saw the wind and snow gradually disappearing, and there was nothingness, and a 3 magatama Sharingan hanging high in the moon sky. In reality, hugging Ichi and Sasuke, Shisui looked at the two sleeping people and apologized softly again. "Kind Huo, send them to the study and keep an eye on them. Don't let them leave the study before dawn." Yes, Giant Huo already knew what Shisui was going to do, but his ability was limited, so he could only choose to support him silently. He responded and immediately stepped forward to take the two away. The elites in the courtyard just watched. They had no hatred for the two sons of the clan leader, let alone silencing them. Everyone. Shisui restrained his emotions and looked at everyone with a serious expression. With a bang, everyone half knelt in the snow. "For Akaya, let's go." "For Akaya," everyone responded in unison, and then their bodies were as fast as lightning, quickly jumping out of the yard and running towards their respective goals. A moment later, the barrier opened and covered the entire clan land. "Grandpa, I'll leave this to you, please take care." Sima Yi nodded, and finally instructed, "If things don't work out, you can escape to Hu. You have the identity of the Anbu, and the third generation has a reason to save your life. Remember, as long as you are alive, there is a chance." Shisui was moved and bowed to say goodbye. Bad things. I thought that this volume would end with the 5 chapters and directly write about the succession of clan leaders. Unexpectedly, I don't know whether I underestimated or overestimated myself. The 5 chapters have just begun. It's already updated. You won't blame me for not finishing it, right? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.